2, 1.
The new norm ain't the same as the old norm. Yeah, the movies weren't very quotable this week. So
I was
have to
not
pull out something
expecting that
kinda...
at all.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's something kind of current because two of these movies don't really have a dialogue to them, and I don't know, and have a funny
Yeah.
"The Sorcerer's Apprentice" 2010 quote. But hi everyone,
Welcome
welcome
back to
to
Campy
Campy
Cast once
Cast.
again.
Yeah, a little
Hi.
bit of experimental lineup this week. These aren't the type of movies we usually talk about, but I think it's a pretty good lineup here. And we have another special guest outside
today.
of our usual lineup. Say hello to PSIUser. PSI, introduce yourself a little quickly.
Hi,
To our
everyone.
audience.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm PSIUser658. I'm many things. I'm a YouTuber. I do my own analysis videos. I also do song covers. I'm also a casual letterbox user. I like to do movie reviews once in a while. I like to criticize them as well. But I especially love reviewing games as well. But for this time around, I return once again in a podcast to talk about more movies, especially ones that
Yeah.
I have some great affinity to, especially these three.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice,
I think we
nice.
got some good recommendations here today, and looking forward to breaking into these. But before we get to that, we had some news you wanted to bring up, Brian.
Oh, well, the only news I could think of is the fucking
the thing related
the
to the
new
intro,
norm dropping,
the
but I'm
new
not sure
norm.
if that quite...
I
What's it
mean, I
constituted?
don't know. That's just
I
a
will
funny
say,
thing to bring up, I guess. Yeah.
it's kind of... I'll just make this really brief, so I guess to kind of tie into the thing. It's not really news other than this thing dropped, but it's hilarious how that show fucking dropped on Twitter. They keep calling it X now, but no one's doing that. And everyone's just kind of going at it, and the whole thing of it is like they wanted another very stock. Oh, this is a edgy adult animated cartoon that'll like make fun of like woke politics or whatever. And now it kind of just got the fucking... Now everyone has been memeing it as treating it as if it's like some progressive show, which is the exact opposite of I know what
Oh
everyone
my.
wanted. It's really funny. Like
That is
if you
so
go on like the
bizarre.
replies to yeah, if you go on the replies to all of them, they're talking about like fucking shoutouts to Salty DK Dad. He's a really funny channel, but on the replies of every Norm tweet, he goes, "Norm, I edged to your videos." And it's
Jesus
like
Christ.
so many
What is
people
wrong
like
with the
just not...
internet?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Man.
so funny, and everyone just giving it this like ironic attention, which is great because if you watch that video, it's like we're somehow still hitting lows on the fucking, the type, like edgy adult animated comedies,
Yeah.
diet
Yeah.
Family Guy. But it just didn't... like at this point. I think at this it's gotten so low that it kind of loops around to being like kind of funny for me. But it's fucking terrible. If I have anything to get from this video, take 4 minutes out of your day to watch the new Norm pilot, and you won't regret it. It's awful, but it's hilarious. Elon Musk shows up, and it's somehow worse than both his South Park and Simpsons appearance. It's wild. But
Really?
yeah, I
That
don't think there's any...
worse?
Yeah.
honestly, it's worse than his fucking Simpsons episode because it's so funny. He like walks into frame. It's it's the worst animation of all time, and it goes, "Thank God for Elon Musk," and it
For
talks
making
about
shit post
X.
memes, and I'm like,
Yeah, and it's like,
what is
and he's
this?
like,
It's so
I forget the exact
stupid.
minute. It's like X. They
Um,
say X, the home of free speech,
It's
and it's
weird
like that's so
because
funny
half of
because...
the things they say in this thing, they're not even jokes. I swear, they're not even jokes. It's just them saying shit like, "Oh, this guy's got a lot of different pronouns," and it's like, what's the joke? There's barely any jokes. It feels like it's so stupid.
No,
basically, they're
the
saying
word...
like this is it. This is a thing that we mention or it says, but there's no punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
No
Hey,
punchline. It's just
I think the
nonsense.
worst joke in the whole thing is this guy goes up and then this dog shows up and he's like, "Oh no, I'm allergic to dogs." And then the girl goes, "Oh, don't worry. It's a non-binary dog." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And the joke is that
What?
got rid of his allergy. Like it's
It's
so
so
fucking
fucking
bad.
stupid. I don't understand it at all.
I
What?
do not get it. Like entirely loops around that's wild. But
Yeah, I was
yeah,
insanely baffled by it. Like, I just heard some people talking about this, and then I watched it, and like, I was just, I don't even know. It is so bizarre. uh,
mhm.
yeah, but yeah, that's all I gotta say about the new norm. Interesting thing to group
Yeah.
with the type of films we're talking about today. But
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
Make America funny again. That's what our boys are telling us at home. And that's all for the news, I think.
yeah.
Uh, I guess it's political news, but we're not like real
Yeah,
world
we
podcast
don't
about
do
this
that. We
one.
don't do that here.
Yeah, no,
Don't talk
no,
about. We're not going to talk about the Biden Trump debate, even though I have
Nah,
some.
nah, no
Uh,
way. No way.
y'all know that ain't happening. But so I guess this week we don't got much preamble. We can just
We just
get
get
right
into the
into the
movies. Yeah.
episode. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Starting with the very first Fantasia, dropping in
yeah, yeah.
1940. Now, PSI user, you
Mhm.
recommended this, so curious to see what's your relationship with it in some way.
Fantasia
Yeah.
is a really special film for me. It's like it's not only like one of my all-time favorite animated films. It is one of my top 5 favorite films. It's that influential for me. It's just the first time I saw it. Well, ironically, the first Fantasia I saw was Fantasia 2000. That was the first one I saw, but I was
Hmm.
in love with the concept, with the animation, the anthology system, the classical music played, and how the animation plays along with the classical music. It was pretty wonderful. But once I got Fantasia on DVD after I fell in love with Fantasia 2000, I was I was shocked at how amazing it was. It's probably Fantasia for me is probably like the most artistically driven Disney animation film ever
Sure.
made because because it's not really a film that you can show to a kid or anything to get it. It's more like for more grown nuts. But I think it works that way because Fantasia itself is more of a visual concert basically, but it's made in a way that lets the animation express itself or how they interpret the music and all the classic pieces of music they play, and it does it in a way that really feels that touches between with my imagination and my sense of humanity, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. It's a
100%.
film
See, it's
that you
funny.
can't help but have a lot of respect for in terms of
Yeah,
like its
100%.
place in the Disney, like the Disney lineup as a whole,
Yeah,
throughout
yeah.
time.
I I really respect this movie on just a bunch of levels because well, first, I guess I'll bring this up. This is the oldest movie we've talked about on Campy Cast, which is
Oh
wild. We
yeah.
keep going further and
Yeah.
further back, which is cool. But see what I really respect about Fantasia and what I think really appeals to me on this watch is if you notice, you listen to some of my like other I try to bring this up a lot when we do animated episodes. I think I brought it up a lot in the Smiling Friends episode we did a while ago. But one of my favorite things to talk about with animation in general is the way stuff is kind of like, specific character animation and framing. I think it's a hard thing to articulate, but the way like a character can move and express themselves, it can say a lot about something without like just not even like telling you, just showing you for how it's animated. I think it's a really key visual aspect. I always love complimenting specific character posings and stuff. And Fantasia, I respect for that on so many levels because this is a movie where if it was not posed the same way, it would not have that impact. Because, like, the whole thing is you got to sync it to the classical music, which all the segments do. Some of them have more linear stories than others. Like, they kind of hang their hat on the fucking Sorcerer's Apprentice segment, but not obviously not every segment is like that. The fucking conductor at the beginning's like, all right, well, some of them are gonna have linear, some of them kind of, and then some of them not at all. But point is, no matter what segment it is, everything is made so precisely in terms of how it moves, how it flows, how everything sort of works out. And I just like that kind of thing is so cool to me, how it really shows how important animation can be because every like movement being so precise, so calculated, it it's just it needs you need to have that for the movie to kind of fit, and I think it's really cool in the sense of like it's one of the main movies that you cannot do in any other medium. Like they can't pull up the fucking live action
Exactly.
remake
Yeah.
version of this one.
Exactly.
But
Hmm.
It's a film that is built upon the music and animation coming together to like just convey very powerful pieces of imagery and emotions to the point where you can't help but not have some level of like respect for it. Now, I'm
Oh,
aware like this
100%.
isn't a film for everyone. There are some people who might not like be down for this concept, I guess, because I know there are some people out there this movie like who might find this kind of boring, not like a huge fan of it. But I believe that like regardless, first off, I find a lot of parts of this like just incredibly mesmerizing and to the point where it becomes entertaining. So I can't really say I found like any of it boring. I definitely think this rewatch like was definitely opened my eyes and made me appreciate it more. But I can somewhat understand where some people are coming from, but even though like I disagree with them, but I just can't help but love this movie. You know?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think I certainly can understand where people come from with that. Like, it's definitely not a movie for everyone. And I honestly, I'm good. I think that's why Disney hangs their hat so much on the fact that, oh, look, Mickey Mouse is in this, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, because that is a fantastic segment. Maybe my favorite, depending on what day you catch me on, because I love how precise and calculated that whole thing is.
Yeah,
But obviously, the whole
definitely.
movie's not like that. It's kind of like,
which made
you
sense
know, like,
because apparently the Sorcerer's Apprentice was the first short film they made, and apparently they were going to release it alone until Walt Disney decided to just make more segments to play around with the idea of playing classical music, and that's how Fantasia was born.
yeah, yeah. See that that's interesting because I know what Walt wanted was his whole idea. I remember he was like he wanted to just have Fantasia be like a sort of not yearly, but definitely we're gonna rotate it out where they'd like have the movie in theaters, but every time you'd go, they'd have a different selection of segments, some of the new ones, you'd have some old ones in, and they'd kind of rotate it like that. The problem is the movie just didn't do well enough for that, and then it just kind of faltered from that sense. But I think it was a really interesting concept to do, like really emphasizing the again the music because music is another really important part of animation. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
some
I
people
think
Yes.
I
kind of
think I think I read that it did technically well, but because Fantasia costed a fortune to make, because Jesus Christ, I mean, all the animation, the orchestra and everything. I mean, of course it will cost a lot that
yeah.
couldn't that even that huge returns wouldn't afford it the huge budget it had.
Yeah, yeah, that
Hmm.
makes sense. But like I was saying, the music is so important because I think above anything, what Fantasia I really like about it is it has a certain scale to it that I don't think many other animated movies have. Because, like, with everything this movie does, like again, it's more like you said, PSI. It's more of a concert piece than a traditional movie.
Yeah,
But
it's
Yeah.
because of that,
basically
every
it's like an experience more than just
yeah,
watching a movie, basically.
yeah, of
It's
course,
a
of course.
it definitely is that, and I feel like that's the main reason why it's not for everyone, since some people might be expecting it to have like I guess more like focused stories in terms of the different segments. It really
Yeah.
depends on the expectations
I
in terms
understand that
of
as a
the
preference thing, but as someone who really likes the preciseness of this stuff, I don't really mind it. But really, what I
same.
was getting at, because the thing is, they really build up that scale so well, because they have all the music choices. They're all very classical pieces that, like, again, everything just feels so big. All the movements are so precise. That makes it feel all really grand. And I know some people don't like the in between segments as much, where like the conductors will be like, all right, now it's this piece and it has this significance behind it. But I really appreciate even in those, they're not doing anything to like get rid of the feel. Everything is treated so seriously, so casually. Like even when they do kind of, I guess, jokier bits, like at the end of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, when Mickey runs out, he'll run up and he'll talk to the conductor for a second, and then he'll
Yeah,
leave.
Yeah,
Now the thing
that
is,
was cute.
even
That was
when
cute.
that
I kind of like
yeah, I
that.
like that. But see, even when that happens, it's not like Mickey's showing up and he's doing like Disney slapstick. It's like, no, no, no. He shows up and they treat that with seriousness. And I think the part later where they're talking to like the fucking they do this personification of music where it's like there's the line and he's trying to show like the soundtrack how that works. Even when that happens, not only portrayed as a joke, it's very like the scope is always kept intact, and that's why I think Fantasia is another reason why it's so good, because the presence of it still certainly stays. And that, I think that goes for all the segments. I certainly have some favorites, but they all feel very big and very grand, especially like some in particular, which we'll get to. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, this is a
Yeah.
cool movie.
I think that's what I love mostly about Fantasia. It's that while it does have its lighthearted moments, like some bits of the showcase of the soundtrack or Mickey Mouse giving its greetings to Leopold Stokowski, it's just that it's made with so much class and dignity. Like they take this project so seriously because they're proud of this animation project and they want to give it the highly respect
Mhm.
and class they can give it.
Yeah, exactly.
Could
A
not agree
hundred
more.
percent.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a lot to do this. There's like multiple segments, so I say we like just break each of them down, see what we think of each of
Mhm.
them, and
Uh,
yeah, I guess we
yeah.
could just kind of sh share. If you guys want, we could go in order, but regardless, it's like
Yeah, I don't mind either way.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
good.
guess we could start
Mhm.
with the big old opening music conduction in terms of like how it eases you into this concert in some way, this experience when it comes
Yep.
to like it starts off being like a simple kind of like orchestra of a bunch of talented musicians coming together, and there's like some amazing colors and silhouettes, and over time it like kind of evolves in terms of the different instruments, the different sounds, turning into the type of visuals that we might see or think of while we are hearing this music. And I think that is a really interesting and cool thing for something to do, and it's like the perfect way to ease the viewer into this movie or concert or whatever you want to call it. But regardless,
Mhm.
it's a great way to open it. There's something very elegant about it, something.
Mm. For sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
The segment of Toccata and Fugue is honestly a perfect introduction to this kind of movie. Basically showcasing the talent of the orchestra and slowly introducing the animation, the abstract imagery that the audience will experience throughout this entire experience. It's magnificent, honestly.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, it builds
Yeah,
like a
100%.
lot of softness. Like the notes have a lot of like softness and then build to more triumphant like tone. And yeah, it speaks for itself, a lot of it. But regardless, it comes together really well. It serves its purpose expertly.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ba, 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 ba.
Yeah, it's like that's the main thing. There's not really much to say about this segment. I think like despite it being good, it might be one of like the weaker ones in the movie, but that might just be because, it's the first one, there's just better
It's
ones.
it's intentionally more like, simple to kind of ease you into the
Exactly,
format. Yep.
exactly. It
Yeah,
serves its
yeah,
purpose well.
and maybe a lot of people are not a huge fan of just pure abstract imagery, for example.
Yeah,
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 that
exactly.
too. But for me, I love
Mhm.
seeing all these abstract images representing different sounds made by instruments, like
Mm,
Yeah,
evolving over time as the silhouettes start to fade more and more.
mm,
So
yeah, it's
yeah,
cool. It all flows very well, like that much, definitely. And
absolutely.
mhm.
yeah. That's it I have to say about this one. It's just at times it might be hard to fully dissect certain parts of the segments here because a lot of it is just cool visuals and music, and there's definitely more layers to this some to certain segments at times. But there are times where some of them are just kind of mainly that.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
got you. Yeah.
Next one's the Nutcracker one. What you guys think of this one?
I actually
I
really
like this
like.
one.
Yeah, I absolutely really like this one. How it showcases the passage of the four seasons, all all the different musician styles of how the Nutcracker suite goes from Russia to Japanese and many parts of the world. It's really really magnificent. I especially enjoyed the parts with with the mushrooms, as the dancing mushrooms, and mostly and I think the climax where it goes to winter. I think those the images of the winter season are just absolutely beautiful. Honestly,
It's
it's immaculate. Honestly,
yeah, just
Yeah,
very
yeah. I love the way
immersive.
it uses
Good.
color to like, emphasize each like season and everything. That's like again another really good use of the animation. Kind of see all that. I think a lot of it really pops, which I think helps with the whole thing. And again, it's one of those because this one's more like, traditionally you can see more things moving around like the flowers and whatnot. It's one of those where when you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, it's more fun to know. Okay, yeah, every like little way the flowers or everything else, they all move. It's exact like timing to each note. And it's one of those things where it's one of those movies where I think you're more rewarded for paying attention because there is like on this viewing there was a really big sense of satisfaction to be like, okay, well when this hits, and it all like is bump bump bump. I really like that, and it's really shown well in this segment how like yeah again like with all the color and the exact posing, I really appreciate it on this one definitely.
the funny thing is, this was not the first time when I first Fantasia for the first time. This was not the first time I saw a lot of these visuals because I actually saw a lot of these visuals in one of my old VHS sets of Disney Christmas sing-alongs, and when they played Joy to the World, they played so many segments of the Nutcracker Suite segment from Fantasia, and when I saw Fantasia for the
Oh,
first time, I was like, oh, those where they come from. I see.
huh.
Makes
Oh,
That's
that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of odd though, because a lot of these they kind of have to work with the specific songs, which kind of plucking them out. But
yeah.
that's interesting. I probably I wouldn't be shocked if they did that for a lot of these, because the anthology format. I'd be shocked if they didn't just release a bunch of these as shorts on their own, because I'm sure I've definitely seen the Sorcerer's Apprentice on its own outside of this movie, and I
Yeah.
think Night of Bald Mountain, which we'll get to at the
There's
very
there's
end, but.
There, there was also a cut segment that was supposed to be originally from Fantasia, but they repurposed it for one of Disney's animation films for Make My Music,
Oh,
the one with
oh, that's
the stork, yeah, the stork.
oh, okay. I did not
Oh,
know that. Wow.
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
segment of
interesting.
the segment of the story from My Music was supposed to be originally for Fantasia, and it was supposed to play Claire de Lune by Debussy. I actually saw the deleted scene, and it's in its pure form with the Claire de Lune music, and honestly, it's my preferred version of that segment. Honestly, it's just I
Hmm,
love Claire de Lune for different reasons, but I think it fitted well for that animation segment for personally.
hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool though. Yeah. Uh, that is this is kind of an unintentional like byproduct because this is made under way different circumstances. But then you can look at Fantasia because it's funny if you look at the '40s Disney lineup, like 90% of them are all like anthology stuff like this. Because eventually, like because of the
Yeah.
war and shit, they to make movies. They're like, all right, let's package together a bunch of shorts so we can call that a movie, which is interesting because obviously this wasn't made out of cheapness like the other ones were, but. Yeah, Fantasia's like one of the only anthology movies people actually remember now, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't
But
seen all those
but
anthologies.
yeah,
I've only seen Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. I have not seen the other ones at the moment. Maybe I'll get to them
yeah,
someday. Who
they're
knows?
not much to write home about, but they're an interesting place in Disney history, so I
yeah,
give them that
Yeah,
at
but the
least.
big difference is that Fantasia was intentionally made to be that way, while the other anthologies they were made because they were made during a time where making story driven films were not very profitable during the time they were going for because World War II, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for the time, but the movies themselves, it's Fantasia's really the main one out of them all that like resonates with people. Like the classic image of Mickey in the wizard costume is something that's like still a huge part of the Disney brand to this day. You know,
Yeah,
so
people, yeah, they like hold on that shit for so long, which
so good that they
I
made a
do
whole
think is
movie about it, except without
yeah,
Mickey. But
exactly.
we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's so interesting because I was talking about they sort of hang their flag on the Mickey in that, which I guess we'll get to with the Sorcerer's Apprentice now. But with that, the whole thing is so interesting because I'm willing to bet a lot of people retroactively felt probably were like, oh, hold on, this isn't a Mickey Mouse movie, because like you look at all the posters and shit, they all market as, oh, look, it's Mickey with the wizard hat. You think he does all that, but not really. Like, this is just the one segment. And Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think, is the one that it's the one that stands out the most from the rest in this, because it's the one with the most like traditional narrative. Like, it's still about syncing the music to animation. It's not a complicated plot or anything. It's literally just, oh, Mickey's he's a fucking lazy ass. He's like, I don't want to put the water in the bucket. I'll get the broom to do it for me. And then he
Yep.
gets the broom, but then does too many of them, and then he has to stop it, and it's a whole thing. Very simple, but this is I'm kind of tied for like three segments as my favorite, because there's this, and then Night of Bald Mountain, and then the
Hmm.
dinosaur one, which I'm blanking on the name for, but
I'm
it's
pretty sure
fantastic
those are.
too.
The thing is, like, I know a lot of these have specific names, but sometimes I just refer to them as like a specific detail that like is a huge part of it. But
Yeah,
I have
I
to
do that
agree
with
that
So
stuff too.
those
I
three
actually
segments are my favorite.
I actually do remember the name of the songs they played during each segment. Actually, I really love that film so much that I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that
that's
makes
good.
sense.
That's
That
why
makes sense.
it's smart to you have picked it then. But yeah, point is, I really love the Sorcerer's Apprentice for that, because it's one of those ones where, again, I love just looking at it, because I think it has one of the out of all of them, it has like one of the most like iconic sound pieces, like the da 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 da. But like, it's so cool when you're watching it, because every little thing with that, like when it's like bum 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 bum, bum, and then like the brooms movie, the bum bum bum, like literally every like step is
Yeah,
quite literally with the note, and
it's
it's
the rhythm of
so
it's a,
cool.
yeah, it's the rhythm of a march, which is super fitting, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
It
also just
works with
like
the
almost
yeah.
pretty funny to see Mickey. See how like cheery his movements are with just like being so giddy to have this broom doing his work for him. You know, there's something very like satisfying and cool about this. Only for him to like fall asleep and then him getting his comeuppance for being a lazy piece of shit in terms of
Yeah,
all the
I
brooms
like this
turning against
because
him.
I
It's
don't know, it's
funny.
like now they kind of Disney tries to, I think, sanitize Mickey in a sense, where it's like you can't have him be anything other than fucking bubbly, cheery mascot. I know those like Mickey Mouse shorts they did a while ago kind of broke away from that, but they don't really advertise those. But point is, like, Mickey's one of the characters I think is stuck most in like generic mascot mode. So it's like, I think he's a lazy fuck in this. Like, he's no role model. Like, he's cool with the fucking. I love the part where you like you get his dream bit,
The
and
dream
that's the another
sequence and
shot
him
I'm like,
idolizing to be
yes,
such a like
yeah,
powerful
this
wizard like his
yeah, exactly. This
master.
is the other
It's
part they kind
funny.
of hang their
Able to control the skies, the waves, the entire earth, basically.
Yeah, it's obviously like a
yeah,
really cool
exactly. It's
visual as
so good.
well, and it also just like adds to his, character without a single word. Really shows the wonder of animation, like the entire film. It really makes you like appreciate the medium. It's great.
Mhm.
Oh, 100%. It's so
It's
good. Just the choice of colors, all those like darks, and then I'm gonna bring like the lighting especially. I'll bring up because this is part that it's one of my favorite animated bits in the whole movie. Where Mickey, he's like, all right, he's fed up with the shit. He sees the broom and he gets his axe. He's fucking whacking that shit. He
yeah.
whacks it, and it's the lighting on that part, the specific like the again how that again matches the music. It looks so good, and then like the juxtaposition. 'Cause you think it's over, the kind of ramps down, but then you get a bunch of them all fucking going at once, and it's all rhythm, like you said, the march. It's oh my god, it's such a good segment. I love it.
Not only
So
that, but after Mickey destroys the broom for the first time, everything goes grayscale, and then when the brooms and then start multiplying and becoming more become turning back to life, that's when you see the colors returning back, and
Yeah.
but in a
mm,
more vibrant way, but
yeah,
in a way that feels very negative to the situation, which is Oh, so
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
It is really good. It's like so iconic for a reason. It might be my favorite segment in a movie as a result of all the
Yeah,
different
I can see it.
colors and just the different silhouettes. Like the silhouette of Mickey just like brutally destroying the broom with the axe, and then all of that, and then just an army coming to like knock him down,
Mhm,
only for it to be
mhm.
exaggerated, like this whole thing turning into a fucking whirlpool, and then him just like, and then the ending is really good with just the his master, the sorcerer himself just kicking him out with the broom to continue his job.
Yeah.
It's a great way to
I
end
love
it.
yeah, I love his design. They name him. They don't say his name in this obviously because it's silent, but Yensid. I know he
Yeah,
appears in like other shit. I think fucking Kingdom Hearts or whatever, which is funny.
yeah.
But the thing with what I like about him, I like that his design is a lot more. I guess he's like still like not like still a cartoon, but he's much more realistic looking, which I think again adds to kind of what they're doing without any words, because the whole thing is he's like it's very much implied he's the big grand like master, literally the sorcerer. So he's much more big and grand in scale compared to Mickey, like a fucking cartoon mouse. So you get that kind of sense of his presence just through character design, and obviously because that's now what this movie is without any words too. So that's great. And then I do love when you hit the final note of the song, and that's when and then Mickey runs off. That's a great way to end it.
Yeah.
I love
I also
this. I
love
love
how
this shit.
I also love how when Mickey is leaving the room, I do like how Jensei does keep a little smirk. Like he knows that Mickey did a very huge mistake, but he's surprised by the ability. He's still like kind of proud a little bit because of how Mickey can be able to learn of his lessons. But
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
yeah, he still
exactly.
gets punished still.
Yeah, he kind of
Yeah,
like has
exactly.
to do his job after that, which is just a nice simple way to end it all. It's great. It's an
Mhm.
amazing segment. Probably might be my favorite in the movie. Like I said, it's next to two of the
Mhm.
other two ones. Which the next one, I guess we could get to the dinosaur segment, is
The
another
right,
Ooh,
yeah,
I
fantastic
yeah,
piece of
love
animation.
this segment.
the right of
This one
spring.
is such yeah, this one is such a powerful segment through like so little, and it's like the more I think it's just so cool from that visual level because it's doing something so like abstract, like what the just the beginning of time and like it's just segments out that could be like fucking Jurassic age shit with the fucking dinosaurs. But this is
Mm-hmm.
another where again I really want to touch on the specific timing of it because quite literally everything is exact. Like when they're doing like the lava and shit, even that is to the note. All the little lava bubbles. It's so. And it really was one of those things where I commend the like animation teams for this so much because it's like getting that so exact requires so much effort for like just such specific. It is so cool to watch. And then when you get to the actual like more of a story with the dinosaurs and shit, it's like you get all of that told with nothing, and it's really like emotionally resonant for me, and I think very well done just with like the simplicity of it, and it's so good. I love it so much. But
Yeah, it speaks
yeah.
for itself. A lot of the, just seeing the world of dinosaurs, and I really like just the idea of using the medium of animation to just express such a huge part of time itself, going back to the dinosaur age, seeing like the birth of the planet, and also this like is before the fucking theory was even a thing. Like I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah, but
like instead there's like a drought and earthquakes, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm almost happy that's like a part of it because I feel like it just makes the ending of this segment like just makes me chill seeing all the dinosaurs just like slowly fall to death as the
I
world
think
breaks.
honestly, like if you're gonna go from like like obviously if you want to be scientific with it, you would go the other way. But as like an actual like narrative, it's much more like emotionally powerful to be like, oh yeah, these guys just kind of naturally fucking died out, left with like the implication that oh that could happen to anyone. Like what is the dinosaurs so special? They just lost everything. You get that
to be fair,
slow.
it is to be fair, it was scientifically accurate for the time of 1940s. Of course, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
theories got
Yeah.
disproven, so for its time, it was well made.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. But I'm saying even still, even if they knew then, I think what they went with is a better ending just for like the it's kind of the depressing aftermath of like, oh shit, like the leaving you on that, really hooking with you, and I think is really interesting. And I really like the set. I think it's very, very well done. Especially like, oh my god, the way the actual like the big dinosaurs look and stuff in contrast to just the regular animals. It's like so good,
Mm-hmm.
lovely stuff.
Yeah. Also, you know, just
Yeah.
the visual of like the T-Rex entering and then just all the dinosaurs being
Yeah.
scared to death of that Stegosaurus, all really cool from a visual point of view. But the music fit pretty
Mhm.
well at times, like really like in terms of like the start of it with like the escalation of the lava and whatnot. A lot to
Mm-hmm.
appreciate here. Just at first, I remember when I first watched this like segment, it was like a year ago. I almost thought it was this segment was a bit too long, but if I'm being honest, I
Yeah.
feel like it
Mm-hmm.
I think
almost
that for the
needs to
next segment
be
actually, but
long.
Yeah, yeah. The first couple of times when I first watched this segment, I did feel it was kind of slow. But to be fair, I was like a teenager, and I was like a
yeah.
teenager. But now as an adult, I do appreciate every single second of this segment and what it was going for,
I
especially that ending.
Yeah, I almost feel like it needs to
Yeah.
be long if it's showing such a major event in history. So like, I am pretty fine. I'm kind of fine with that now, and
Yeah.
believe that like I definitely think this is like a segment that I understand why it's like longer than the others, and I think it
Yeah.
works.
It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of it's kind of funny, like we're saying. I think actually is it the next one?
I'm pretty Yeah, it's the next one,
Oh
the
yeah, I think it
Pegasus
is.
thing you're talking about,
Yeah, the Pegasus one.
the
This is
Yeah.
Mapsolotus.
probably my least favorite segment in them. It's not bad. It's well made, I think, similar to the
Mm-hmm.
other ones, the way it's all timed. But this one personally, like I remember on my first viewing, I felt like it really dragged. Like I wasn't very engaged in it really. And I was kind of hoping I could go on this rewatch and be like, yeah, no, it's my favorite. I really like it a lot more. I will say I certainly appreciate it a lot more, and it doesn't drag as much. But there's still a part of me that's like, okay, well, it goes on a little long, but it still has similar qualities to appreciate as the rest of the movie, definitely. So,
Yeah.
no diss on that. I think it's interesting.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get that behind.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this segment I also don't have much to say about. Just kind of like it's colorful. It's nice. I like the different designs and whatnot, like the different Pegasuses, the visuals of like the different gods like Zeus, it all blends
Mm-hmm.
together well. I do think it just dragged a bit for a segment like this, so I do kind of agree with you with that.
Yeah. Yeah, Pastoral
Mhm.
Symphony. I say it's a good segment personally. It's very colorful and it kind
Yeah.
of cutesy at points, especially with the whole especially with the whole showcase of the Pegasus. I do like some of the designs for some of the gods and goddesses and the rampage of Zeus. It's pretty good. I especially love the ending shot of the moon goddess of the moon goddess of the moon god. I don't remember his name or her name. I don't know. That throws that shoots an arrow and creates the sky full of stars. That was a pretty cool visual personally.
Oh yeah, that was really
Yeah.
cool. Um,
Yeah. One more thing. Actually, it's funny. The main thing I have in this segment isn't even directly involved in it. I just know that fucking I'm sure I don't know if how much you guys like know this. I think you might PSI, but I know
Yeah.
that one they had to edit that segment over them because like a couple of the Pegasus were like so they removed some of it for like racial
oh,
stereotyping
I
Yeah,
because they
think
were
yeah,
I've
like
there,
heard
yeah, there
about
was,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They did out some parts involving a little centaur called Sunflower. That it's kind of a black caricature that has not aged really well,
yeah
honestly.
That's the thing with a lot of Disney
yeah. See,
movies, like the really old ones. Yeah, like
I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've always been kind of conflicted on because on the one hand, it's like obviously I'm never gonna advocate for the segments that like the aspects themselves 'cause that's always gonna be race and even if it wasn't intentionally done, it just stereotypes of a bad time. But also, I think in another sense, it's kind of weird to pretend that it never happened. Like you could maybe like release two
It's a
versions, be like okay,
yeah,
like it's the
yeah.
whole thing.
It's a complicated topic because I'm against censorship,
Yeah,
but honestly, this version of Fantasia was the first one I saw, so it's not like I'm missing out. Plus, if it doesn't ruin the flow of the music and the animation, I don't think it's that horrible, but it's still something to point out, honestly.
I think
Yeah,
if you
it's
didn't
hard to
know
like
that there
get
was,
over it, especially in certain
I think if you
movies where
didn't know
like
that a character was supposed to be there, you wouldn't really recognize it. Because in the actual movie, it still flows the same. It's kind of like, it's a thing to certainly know. And I will say, on re-releases, they do make it very seamless in terms of how like they get it. It's like I said, you could not tell, I don't think, if it wasn't told to you. But yeah, that's just my whole thing. I appreciate the approach like studios like Warner Brothers did, where they'd be like, they release all Looney Tunes shorts and be like, this is racist, but it's more offensive to pretend that it didn't happen, and they do that with like the censored 11 or other racist shorts they have involved there. But that's kind of a whole can of worms, kind of unrelated to Fantasia itself. That's just my
yeah,
whole
it was
perspective.
like
Mhm.
it was a huge thing with Disney at the time, and sometimes it's like
Yeah,
hard to ignore some of the stuff that
yeah.
like they
I
have
don't
in
know.
some
I
of
just think
the.
they should kind of just pussy up this point. Like release fucking Song of the South, Disney. It's been like 80 years. Come on.
Jesus,
Like
I
yeah.
know
like
you have
some
a
of,
4K Blu-ray somewhere in your fucking vault. Don't
yeah,
hide it from me. I know it's there.
I know nothing
you
But
about
can
that
you can,
movie other than it's racist.
yeah, you can't
yeah, that's
hide
what I was thinking.
history, Disney.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Speaking
We'll
of
see.
the 2010 re-release of Fantasia, there is something I'm kind of disappointed, and I understand why they go it that way. Is because you guys know the original narration of Deems Taylor, the original narrator, all the audio for it is basically lost at this point. It's basically corrupt.
I heard about that. They had to like
They had to
go over
overdub.
it.
They had to overdub it for the
Oh
recent
yeah,
re-release.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
The most salvageable I found of the original audio was the 1990 VHS re-release, but even then, it's not like the full version of Fantasia. It's basically like cut it out. The segments are still intact, but the intermission segments between each the intermissions between each segment are basically cut out just to give like a small introduction, but not the entire introduction of the segment, which is kind of unfortunate. But no, I still haven't seen the full original 1940 release at its original prime state, which is unfortunate.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gotta suck,
definitely.
especially since like there's probably a lot of people who would just love to see that like original version, especially like big fans of the movie like you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, that's like all I gotta say. But I really do not have
Yeah.
much to say about this Pegasus segment other than it's
Yeah, I think
cute,
it's
has some
very
cool visuals,
solidly,
just
yeah,
goes
it's
on
very
for a bit too
solidly
long in my
animated and
eyes.
done like the rest of them. Maybe you could, I respect it a lot, but it's not a preferred for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
forget, I'm forgetting, is the intermission between these, or is that like, did we pass that already? Because I was gonna
No,
bring that up
I think
briefly.
I'm
it's
pretty.
after. I think the intermission is after the Pastoral Symphony. I think.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think there's not much to say. Obviously, it's like literally an intermission. But it's one thing I do also find cool about the movie because it's like, okay, yeah, you're really gonna commit to that concert vibe. We'll give it like it's obviously not a real 15 minutes. They wouldn't do that to fucking pad the movie. But it's like, okay, that illusion of it I think is really interesting to sort of fit it
Yeah,
in and to
I'm
have the
glad. I'm glad that they kept that in the recent re-release. Though I gotta wonder how it will be to watch the authentic Fantasia theater experience and have that 15-minute intermission. I wonder how it will be in that way.
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be
that'd be
cool
weird.
actually.
That'd be like
This
all
would be an
that
interesting
that
movie
would
to see in theaters
immerse
and
you
like that
into
whole
the experience more. Well, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it might be kind of like cool in some way for some people, though it might be
Yeah,
annoying for
yeah,
some other
definitely.
people who just want to see it continue. But I do agree. It does a good job at like allowing them to commit to this concert vibe. In general, the whole thing with like the narrator himself and whatnot trying to describe this segments really like immerses you into this experience. Just the way he describes it all, it never really took away from the different like shorts at all, if I'm being honest, which I appreciate. If
Certainly
anything,
not.
Absolutely.
it added something to it. It added a nice little description that allowed us to kind of pick the pieces, like think about more in some cases, which I feel like is also
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
Absolutely.
exactly.
evident like in the next segment, which I forgot which one is called, but I know it's the one with all the ostriches, the hippos, the alligators.
Actually, before that, after the intermission, there was a segment with James Taylor showcasing a weird segment about how the soundtrack works.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
th-
that
like
Yeah,
they show,
that was
yeah,
also
Like they show this sound wave where basically it plays in animation style about how will an instrument play, and the animators basically show how will they represent that musical note or sound from an instrument into their own style of animation, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of cute. I don't know what you guys think of it, honestly.
It's cute. I thought it was
I think
nice. It
it's
was all right. Yeah.
I think it's cute the way they like again it's kind of jokey like oh we're gonna talk to the fucking personification of a soundtrack but I like it in the sense of
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I'd
it
say I
doesn't
liked it too.
break the flow of it because again the whole thing with Fantasia is this big scale and they're keeping that even when you're just talking to like an inanimate like line. I like that a lot, and I think
Yeah,
it's
I
nice and
like it.
doesn't like
It's
doesn't
pretty.
waste too much time either. So
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
I
see
not
any
anything
problem.
I'd say is like amazing or anything, but it's
mhm.
like a cute little moment that like kind of it's not entirely necessary to the show, but it does kind of like add a cool little thing when it came to like
Yeah,
showing us
I
some cool animation like in the middle of this all having this. It's a
yeah
nice little
yeah.
moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do like that for its lighthearted moment. I do like how when he's first introduced, when Dim Taylor is like, "Come on, make a sound, any sound," and it's like, that was kind of funny, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cute. But yeah, then I guess there's the next. Yeah, by this point, I think it's
The the
it's the
dan- the,
dance segment after this one, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah,
the
yeah.
hippos.
the dance of
Okay,
the
yeah,
hours, the dance of the hours with the ostriches, the
Oh
hippos,
yeah.
the list, the
yeah.
coco, the alligators. Yeah.
I I really like this one. I think it's again another one great for that sort of visual music timing. It's great. A little more like again a little more cartoonish. Obviously, you're having the whole fucking hippos and ostriches and shit. But I think it's all really still very beautifully animated, still very well done. Again, contrasted to the music, and not too much to say about this one, but I think it's very well
Yeah,
presented
it's
as well.
I love the frantic vibe it evolved with all the animals like coming in each time, all of them essentially trying to represent different parts of the day and whatnot. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
what they were trying to do
Yeah, sim-
there.
yeah, similar to the Nutcracker series where they show the progress of the four seasons. This one is about the progress of a single day, going from the morning to the evening.
Yeah, it works well. It's just a fun little, some cool animation, just a lot of charm between the different animal interactions, such as the stuff with the hippos and the alligators, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, also the whole
Yeah.
thing with them levitating the hippo using bubbles. I don't know. There's like some funny, like nice little cute moments in this movie, which is something I definitely appreciate. Like especially throughout the Sorcerer's Apprentice segment, like we said earlier. So
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's another great one. What I say? What can I say? Um,
Yeah, it definitely is a segment that doesn't take itself too seriously because I mean these are animals, especially with the weird dance styles of the hippos and and the alligators. Of course they had a lot of fun making them kind of cartoonish and having fun with their weird quirks in their dance performance and all that.
Mhm.
yeah,
Definitely would agree on that front. And then we get to the real finale here.
yeah.
Night on Bald Mountain, which is a common pick for people's favorite segment. I'm not sure about that. Again, like I said, the dinosaur one and Soldier's Apprentice, they're definitely top three for me. But I think this one is one of the most real, just raw, powerful ones in terms of just like performance and stuff. Because it's we get there's like Chernobog, who is practically like very much implied to be the personification of like
Of evil.
Satan or whatever. And
Yeah, it's
yeah,
basically the
exactly.
devil.
Of
Satan,
evil.
Originally he
basically.
was supposed to. It's basically the personification of Satan, the devil, basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
like we see him just pour all of these dead lost souls out of this like town, and there's something just very like creepy about this whole image, like the sound design, the different just the different visuals they show, that the continuous like looking of the sketchy type style. It's just so cool. Like, and then you see
I
him
know,
like
right?
play with them as if there's puppets, like being. It's just a great personification of pure evil in that way, And as a result, it's just so cool to see this all like come together. Just so many breathtaking pieces of animation, but also they're really
Hmm.
creepy at the same time. There's like so many different colors and styles and like pieces of shading that just look
Mhm.
so fucking cool. And
I love the little like devil creature that are kind of like the little guys that are dancing around while the thing is
The little
happening. It's
limbs,
so
right?
yeah. I love their designs. They're all great, and there's just something so raw about the fact that one Disney is doing the fucking like big thing about the literal like Satan practically, which is see Disney had balls. They're not pussies like they are now, but it's
exactly,
just
yeah.
so cool in
It's almost
that
makes me
sense.
like appreciate it more, and just seeing his like pure
Yeah.
like control over this, like making like huge pieces of fire, seeing all these like lost souls in such a
Hmm.
frantic like all over the place state, all
Mhm.
while he just smiles. And then the pure chills I felt as like the fucking church bells ring, only for him to just like slowly just like crumble up as it transitions to the beautiful Ave Maria ending with all the like, after all the spirits start to descend back to town.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Indeed.
definitely.
Here's the
It
thing. When I was a teenager, The Sorcerer's Apprentice was my favorite segment. But now as a young adult, especially when my most recent rewatches, I think Night in Ball Mountain might be my absolute favorite segment because of just how raw and powerful the entire segment is. Both the piece of Night in Ball Mountain and especially the transition to Ave Maria. It's something that touches something in my heart, especially with the feelings of the traversal of how evil can sometimes evil and despair can conquer our thoughts, our imaginations, our spirits in us humans. But we just gotta remember that hope and light will always come back, which is the representation of this entire segment. That at the end, hope, light and hope will always prevail over evil and despair, which is so poetic. It does have some religious
Mhm.
undertones, especially with the use of Ave Maria, which obviously I'm Catholic, so I don't really mind it. So of course I love this. I do like it. But even without taking the religious undertones, you gotta admit this. It's a really powerful scene, especially Ave Maria. That's
Yeah.
like that part of the finale alone always brings tears to my eyes. It's just so beautiful. It's like I think it's
Yeah.
one of the best pieces of animation that Walt Disney Animation has ever produced because it's just so powerful in its message. Not saying anything, just by the visuals and the music and the core bringing bring and the core and the Latin and the core bringing all these lyrics, showing us this beautiful right that beautiful sunrise. It's such a fantastic finale to this amazing concert, honestly.
Yeah, that is perfectly fair to think this is
100%.
the best one.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah, no,
honest,
I
it is
get that
this or the
100%.
Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's like neck and neck right now. But there's just like it is the perfect finale in terms of like showing us just so much raw emotion, and then just seeing the visuals of a bunch of different monks just walking through the forest as
Mhm.
the Ave Maria plays with all the lights. It is pure beauty right there. It is so fucking good. I love
Mhm.
it so
and the and
much.
the and the lay and the lay
100%.
and the layer and the layers of the among characters and the forest. It definitely felt like an evolution of the animation style of both Snow White and Pinocchio, since this was the third Disney animated film, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's really great, honestly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you
That's
cannot
another thing that
mistake
actually
how
I find really
revolutionary
interesting.
this was at the time in terms of like showing something of how like cool animation was based off like the last two movies. Like it is like animation wasn't like a huge thing. Like it was like very popular, but like here this was like really pushing the boundaries and medium of it, so
Well,
it
see, that's the
like
thing, another thing you
stunned
gotta
audience at the
consider,
time.
right? Because obviously this is when Disney was still starting out, like Snow White, literal first animated movie ever made. And this
Exactly.
would have been the third from Disney. And you gotta consider, right, this time was when Disney was practically untouched in the sense of they didn't really have rivals when it comes to animated movies. Like, sure,
Hmm.
Warner exists, but they weren't going into animated features. They kind of stuck to their like
They're
the
short.
same
They're
fucking like yeah, short films, Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, and those are
Right. Yeah.
fantastic. In fact, I yap about those a lot with certain
hmm
people. But the whole thing is there were all those, and Disney really had like rivals in the sense of, I don't know, maybe like fucking 80s, 70s when you get to like Dawn Blue shit and underground stuff. Point is, like, this point in time, these were some of the first animated movies literally ever made. So you go with something like Fantasia, and it's like, this is the third thing Disney did, and it's showing so beautifully the impact animation can have. Like 3 movies in, and you're making like a fucking concert piece, like entirely focused on just animation as a whole. It's like, it's the least like studio feeling Disney movie is the second. It's no big narratives, no like big wacky jokes or whatever. And I don't mind that. If anything, my favorite Disney movies do lean into some of that stuff, but it's really what makes me appreciate all these segments on that level. And it's why on this rewatch it's been boosted a lot for me because I used to be kind of, not like I didn't hate it, but I was like, I kind of respect it more than I like it. And I
Yeah,
can definitely still see the model, but it's like
that
there's
was the
so
same
much
for
still
me,
appreciate.
definitely. And I
Mhm.
still
Yeah,
think a part of me respects it more than I like it, but I just liked it more on this rewatch, and I could see myself
yeah,
only appreciating it more if I ever get
totally,
back to
totally.
rewatching it in the future. It's a
Yeah,
great movie.
for me personally, this is one of my top 5 favorite Disney films. I prefer some of the more story driven films like Hunchback of Notre Dame or even Atlantis and such. But Fantasia will always be at the top because it just touches on my sensibilities a lot, especially of the visual emotion of animation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense. That works. I could definitely
Yeah.
understand it. It's like probably near some of the best work Disney has made, looking back at it.
I personally consider it Walt Disney's magnum opus, not the studio's magnum opus per se. I'm talking about the man himself, Walt Disney. Walt Disney. I feel this was his biggest passion. I feel like even after all the films he's worked on and all the short film, I feel like this is the one that really feels like a true the best masterpiece he ever organized for himself.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like out of this early Disney lineup, it's the most like I think
Yeah,
beautifully
it's
like
like one of the best from
artistic
there,
driven thing.
definitely, and just
Yeah,
in general, it's one of the most like respectable Disney movies, I could say.
yeah. It's kind of
Mhm.
wild, Anthony.
Definitely say.
This is like the second Disney movie we've covered on the podcast. I think like the only other one was the fucking Chicken Little episode with Hal, and that's wild.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like you would have.
that's weird to think about.
Yeah, I thought we would have
Yep.
more. Like, I guess.
Basically going from opposite of peak to peak now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, we should do more Disney stuff eventually. But yeah, I think we can I think we're all good on that stuff. You want to get into ratings across
Yeah,
everyone or
yeah.
across the
I'm gonna give
okay.
this a high 8 out of 10. I could see it going to a 9 one day. But it's getting better
Mhm.
the more like we discussed it because there's a lot to appreciate about it. But yeah, this
Absolutely.
rewatch definitely opened my eyes and made me appreciate it more.
Yeah, I would give this one a very solid 9 out of 10 where it's not like the whole thing I'm not like actively overjoyed about. Just I feel like my 10s are the movies I feel like I can rewatch practically any day and I'm like, all right, this fucking rocks. I've had taken I gotta be in a certain vibe for, so it's not quite there, but it's a very solid 9 and definitely one of my it's skyrocketed to one of my personal favorites of the Disney catalog. I'd give that a high
Mhm.
9, and I'm assuming it's a 10 from you, PSI, because you talk about
Yeah,
how much
yeah,
it's
it's
good.
weird. When I first started doing letterbox reviews, I did give Fantasia a 9 out of 10, but including biases, I might give it a 10 just because I mean it is a very important film for me. So I don't
Yeah,
so critically it's a 9, but for personal enjoyment it's a 10 for me. It's a
yeah,
10
no,
for me if that made sense.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. My God, I
that's
got like a
incredibly
million
fair.
subjective 10s.
Yeah.
You're cool,
Before we
but
move on, I just want to mention some things. The Ride of Spring segment, probably the better dinosaur related animation thing that Disney has ever made. Honestly.
yeah,
Congratulations, Disney. You made dinosaurs cool for once.
yeah. Well, that one wasn't in the Godzilla idea, but
also,
yeah,
I just want to mention that it's funny how Disney edited out Sunflower from the Pastoral Symphony segment, but in Annabelle Mountain, there are parts where you see the naked chest of lady spirits, demon spirits, and like,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah. Well,
Because
this is a weird hypocrisy to that about you. It's like, oh well, you can show all the violence, but not like sex or whatever. But
this is
I
this is this is a kids film.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. See, this is the bullshit thing. When you go on fucking animation Twitter and people are like, "Animation is cinema," they never bring up Fantasia. They bring up fucking like Secret Life of Pets 2 or some shit. Like, come on, put on a real animated movie, you cowards. You don't know what animation is cinema means. But yeah, I think that's pretty good with Fantasia. Now we're on to a couple decades later, very different period of Disney. And this is an interesting one because it was the first post Renaissance Disney movie because this was
Mhm.
it did that stupid fucking thing like Cars do where it's like it's Fantasia 2000 even though it's the year 99. Like I don't like the way
Yeah,
stuff does.
Well,
yeah.
well,
But
to be
point is,
well, to be fair, the premiere was in '99, but then they released it on IMAX public wise on January 1st, 2000. So it kind
okay,
of
yeah,
fits,
so
honestly.
all right, well, it's close enough, I suppose. But yeah, Fantasia 2000 came out. I think this I kind of mark it as a beginning of another era for Disney because you look and this was in between when they headed to CG and before the Renaissance, which some people call the Dark Age, but not really in terms of quality, just kind of like, finances.
In
Because it was
terms of
Fantasia
like
2000,
tone
which
as well, like there was a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
of different
And
types
they
of
did like a
movies here.
lot of unique stuff in this time where the year after this was Dinosaur, which say what you want about it, it certainly is experimental in the sense of like, okay, they
Hmm.
did not do any shit like this before.
Yeah,
It's ass, but it has a certain iconic song to a certain dino. But
yeah,
then same year, Emperor's New Groove.
yep.
Very, very comedically driven movie, which is like Disney hadn't done anything that outwardly in that sense, like
To be
ever.
to
So it's
be
like, okay, that
to
was,
be to be fair, it's a peak comedy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this as a diss. I'm just saying it real like they did stuff very out of the norm there. I fucking love Emperor's New Groove, being then 2001 there was Atlantis, which not really traditional Disney format. I've never seen that movie, but it's like it's in this paradox state where everyone says it's underrated, but it's like if everyone thinks it's underrated, isn't it just normally rated now? I think that's kind of weird. But yeah, then there's actually have either of you seen Atlantis? I've never checked that one out, but
I
I
did
I
have
I
always
did
hear
see,
it's
I saw Atlantis when I was a kid, and yeah, I
oh,
still love it.
oh yeah, that's nice. But plus then next year was fucking Treasure Planet, which was the big bomb.
uh,
But again, very experimental thing. Fucking Treasure Island retelling in space. They
and
could
only
breathe. That's wild. And then fucking Brother Bear, and then Home on the Range, and then Chicken Little. The point is, I think I made my point by
you
now.
forgot,
Everything
dude,
was
dude, you
yeah.
forgot Lilo and Stitch. That came before Treasure
Oh
Planet.
shit, yeah. I forgot. Oh my god, that's how did I forget the actually really good one? But yeah, the Lilo and Stitch is a perfect example where it's like, yeah, that's like it's a fantastic movie, but it's not really doing the traditional like Disney storytelling, like really like coming of age kind of bonding movie with fucking like down to earth slice of life, but also an alien movie. The thing is, real point I'm trying to make here is they did a lot of shit outside of the traditional
Disney.
Disney like format of the 90s, like the
Something,
Renaissance. And I think
yeah,
Fantasia 2000 was the start of that because it's like, oh, what's this? We're making a sequel nearly like decades later, and it's not really even the
six
style of
decades later,
Fantasia.
basically. 6 decades
Yeah,
later.
yeah. Yeah, yes, yes, near practically on the dot. But yeah, it's like I think for that Fantasia 2000 is I like this movie, but I have a lot of things to nitpick about it. I think
Same.
ultimately it just comes
Yeah,
down to like it removes a lot of what is cool about the original Fantasia, and I'll get
yeah.
into that right away with I'll talk about the wraparounds again. They're kind of ass in this. Like some of them are kind of funny. I like Steve Martin. I like James O. Jones. I like the people they get for them. But I think it kind of devalues what they're going for with the movie a little bit because like I was talking about, Fantasia, the first one had such this scale, this prominence to everything, and made everything feel so big, so grand that I feel
Hmm.
like you don't really get from this when they're cracking fucking MCU quips and making stupid jokes
Yeah,
like the entire.
that's
Not even
like
that they're
probably
all
my one of my
horrible
biggest
jokes.
issues with it. Like the jokes
Yeah,
themselves, I don't even think they're like that bad, but they're just like they just don't fit the tone. Like I like like some of the people they get for, I
Mm.
don't even really have a problem with like them. I just don't think they fit the tone of the movie they're in. Like, cause I like how the first Fantasia always panned back to this like one main like composer kind of like describing the different segments. It really like nailed the tone properly, just always tracing
Mhm.
back to the same like group of people. And I feel like this variety here just kind of like just you know what I mean? It just kind of like makes the tone feel a bit weirder.
Yeah,
And I
it
Yeah,
preferred
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
the
Like,
more
feel
isolated
as
feeling in the last movie.
personally, that celebrity introductions, I don't hate them. I definitely prefer some over them, but I mean, I like some of them. James Earl Jones, I really like. Angela Lansbury for the final segment was really well made too.
Mhm.
I just take some, like, for example, Bette Midler's. That one kind of pisses me off. How she refers Salvador Dali as the melting clock guy. Like, he's more than that.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's another thing where it's like again, they're fun. It's not even entirely terrible jokes, but I think like if you're gonna do that, it's Fantasia is not the place for it when it's supposed to really emphasize these works and bits. And again, I think this goes in even the cartoon segments because they do a similar thing to what they did in the first one, where after Mickey goes in, which they just reuse the Sorcerer Apprentice, which
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
sort
like
of I
the
get the idea of
weirdest
because I know
thing
Walt's
in the
idea
movie.
was. Yeah, because no, Walt's idea was he wanted to shuffle around segments, bring in new ones, take in old ones. That would be cool. But the way they have it now just feels kind of lazy. Like, oh, you're gonna put a
Yeah,
fucking
I think the
1940 thing
issue
into
with it, like, first
1991.
off, animation wise, it feels out of place because
Oh, it
Yeah.
does
the
100%.
original one, like the original PlayStation, it had such a timeless feeling with the animation, you know? It was like very
Hmm.
like laid back. It's hard to fully describe it because I'm not like an expert in specific animation, but you know, just the feeling of it was completely
Hmm.
like laid back and different to fit the because of the time period. But in
Yeah.
this, like
Yeah,
throwing
exactly.
this into a film with so many like the style with such a different style like compared to the first, it feels very out of place. And also, like at the very
Especially,
least, when I
yeah,
heard
especially when you comprise all the semis from Fantasia 2000, it's less more about animation. It's mostly more about expression of animation, but more like the showcase of the technology of the different styles of animation, like 2D, the use of CG and whatnot. They're still most of them are really great. It's just that there's a difference between the more classy old school animation of the 1940s from Fantasia to this one. There's a huge difference, which makes the Sorcerer's
Oh, yeah,
Apprentice placement a
100%.
little
yeah.
bit out of place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also
one
like in
thing.
general, just like
Yeah.
if they were gonna put the Sorcerer's Apprentice, I was hoping like when I heard it, I was like, okay, maybe there would be like at least a new animation style to it, but then like no, it's literally just
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same
that's what
short
I
like
I was
Hmm.
hoping. Yeah, I was talking about this with a friend of the podcast, Israel. Hi, Israel, if you're listening to this. But he brought this up to me where it's like, yeah, if they're gonna do Sorcerer's Apprentice, you could reanimate it, and that would fit
That's what I
with
was
the whole theme of
thinking
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
before
because the whole
going
thing
into this
was
movie when I heard about
Fantasia
that.
is this showcase of how animation kind of like
Has
it's
evolved.
Fantasia as a whole is like a showcase of the strengths of animation. So I was thinking, right, like, okay, if you're gonna do that, maybe like okay, if you update it, you can show how far animation has gone from 1940 to 1999, and that could sort of emphasize the point of Fantasia. But no, they don't really do that, so it's kind of like it
But
feels awkward. But
I,
yeah, the
I
whole
think
point I was sorry,
I,
yeah.
I, I think the idea is that Fantasia 2000 was originally made for IMAX screens back then. So I guess they thought the idea of having the Sorcerer's Apprentice maybe have it on its original format, so to be seen for the first time in IMAX screens. Which I can kind of get, but it will still be cool to see like the animation evolve during with the current sensibilities of Disney in a more
Yeah,
respectful and
yeah,
honorary
exactly.
way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd argue you could just re-release the original Fantasia in IMAX if that's what their goal was.
Hmm.
But the thing I was trying to get to, kind of sidetracked on that, is point is that it does the same thing after the Sorcerer's Apprentice, like, where it's like Mickey runs off and then he comes out. What I don't like about this one though is, like I said, about the first one, the joke is sort of that they treat Mickey the same they would treat all the composers. Like walks over, they treat him very casually, he comes out. But in this, they kind of I don't like what they do instead, where Mickey he comes out. And then they do like a little joke with him, and then the joke is, oh, he has to find Donald, and Donald's in like the
Donald's
fucking shower.
taking, yeah, that was a shower. It's like
Decent.
it doesn't
Yeah,
feel like Fantasia. I just prefer the isolated nature of these
yeah,
older
exactly.
like composer
It's not
moments,
even
you
like
know?
a bad like
Or
slapstick gag. Like Donald is my favorite of the traditional Mickey Mouse crew, so I kind of like him popping in for a gag. But it's kind of like it doesn't really fit Fantasia to me. It feels like okay, well, you're
I
kind
think
of
I think I
teetering
think
the
that joke
line.
could.
But
I feel like that joke could have worked if instead of Donald taking a shower, which is super on deaf tonally wise, maybe have him like prepared, like putting on a smoking or something to be prepared to be on stage or something. But I don't know. It could
you
have been
could
a
have just
lot
like
better.
called him in or something, like something more like casual, and that be the joke rather than like a traditional cartoon gag, which normally I don't even care about. But I think if you're doing Fantasia, you gotta. It, this movie has like practically none of the scope the first had, and that's not inherently a bad thing. But
I guess we could
I don't
talk
know. I
about
feel
some
like
of
as
the
a follow
segments
up
because
two
there are good
thousand.
segments in this movie, but there are
Mhm.
some I like more than others here.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
So,
funny.
yeah.
I feel like the segments that stuck with me the most are the ones that are the most unlike what I like about Fantasia. I guess we'll go down the list similarly to
that's
how
a
we
Yeah.
good
did
point. Yeah,
the first one. But hold on. What was the
I
did
think
it
The
it was
first
the
open
one,
with the
the
water
butterfly,
one or am I
right?
forgetting?
the first one was the Symphony Number 5 of Beethoven with with the paper butterflies.
Yeah, that one
Oh yeah, no,
was
I like this one for
yeah
the style of it. I think it looks cute.
some
It's one of
cool
the only ones I think
abstract
that almost
imagery.
recaptures the real vibe of it. I think it looks very nice
Pretty
on that
damn
sense.
short though, but I guess there's only so much you can
Yeah,
do with paper
Yeah,
butterflies.
I absolutely loved it, especially the animation and everything. My biggest nitpick about it is that the original Fantasia was supposed to introduce a musical a segment of Dean Starr said, the third kind, which is just abstract imagery mixing up with the music to give to audience ease in with the experience of how the animation will express the music that the orchestra will play. Well, in this one, the butterfly, it's almost telling a story, honestly, because it's about this baby,
yeah,
this mother butterfly taking care of its little son, that butterfly, like, and then these dark butterflies come out of nowhere and they try to destroy the world and with its malice and everything, and the mother is trying to protect its son, and there's some abstract I don't know shit, and everything gets solved or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
not
See,
like the
this is my
best
whole
way to
thing
open
with
the movie.
yeah, this is my whole thing with this movie, and I'll get to it more when we go to future segments. But I feel like Fantasia 2000. My biggest problem with it is the actual segments themselves feel very disconnected from what the goal of Fantasia is, because the whole thing was in Fantasia was kind of the music drove the story and the animation matched to that. But in
Hmm.
this, it feels more so like Disney had a bunch of shorts in their lineup, but they kind of just they put the classical music over it, like you don't it feels much less like they need the music to drive it. And with some of the segments which we'll get to, in particular the whale one, it's kind
Hmm.
of like okay, well, I feel like it doesn't quite match to the music the same way I would like from a Fantasia movie, and that's where a lot of my criticism of 2000 come from. Where even if they're not bad segments, they don't feel like great Fantasia segments, and that's what
Yeah,
really
they
In my
just like
personal,
really
in
don't
my
bugs.
feel fully built up from the music as
mm,
like quite as
in my
well.
personal opinion, I think they did the same tactic of the animators hearing the music and writing and make the animation for the segments in
Mhm.
the same way that Fantasia did. The problem is the original Fantasia had different styles of segments. They had story-driven ones like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. They had the abstract imagery, the ones that with abstract imagery, and the ones that don't really have a story, but they have images that coincide with the music that plays, trying to tell a specific theme or story, not story bit, but more like a process of something relatable to our lives as humans. While in Fantasia 2000, most of the segments are mostly story driven. There's almost none of that abstract imagery or telling a compelling topic. It's most of them are just stories that are born from hearing that music.
Yeah, definitely. It's like it's just as a result it just feels less built up from the music, which is a huge part of Fantasia in that way. It's It's like I don't even think I like outright hate any of the segments. I just think at worst some of them might be like a little bit lamer than others and are just like not
Mhm.
all that good. But yeah, this a butterfly one's like a decent way to decent segments on its own. I just think like it's not the best way to open the movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely it just isn't
I
quite hitting the same stuff that like the first film had, and it feels like they're trying to replicate the original film's magic but are just not hitting it as well.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to replicate something that is before, but it's at least try to make it something that makes sense. I'm not saying that anything is bad. I actually like all the segments in this version of Fantasia. I just think they could have done it a way better job in trying to keep the same type of tone and style and homage that the original Fantasia was trying to achieve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly.
I
Certainly.
agree. Um,
Uh, the next one is probably one of my least favorite in the movie. We got a fucking Pines of Rome, which is about these humpback whales who can they can fly, I
they
guess,
can
and that
fly.
becomes their whole thing. Um, I sort of respect this one for the style of it. As like, okay, well, the what they did with the whales and shit, it's technically impressive. I think that looks cool,
Some of it
but I
looks
feel like
really
it kind of
cool at
yeah,
parts.
it
Yeah.
really just for me, it kind of fits to the criticism I was talking about earlier, where like the timing with the music and whatnot, I feel doesn't quite hit as much as I'd like it to, and it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's like
I
it's
understand
for
that.
almost a fine. It's one of those ones where I kind of notice it more, where it's like I feel like for this you didn't really need the classical music. It feels kind of like okay, well this was a fine segment on its own, but you just have to make it Fantasia. Like I'm not even sure what the behind the scenes for this one were like, but it definitely if they just took shorts kind of unrelatedly, I would not be surprised if that was like
Yeah, I can
if they
I can
didn't have to
understand.
do that.
I don't think the music fitted well. There were some parts where it does fit, but it's not like the same oomph, like the same
Not the
pizzazz
same satisfaction or power when you
that
hear
satisfaction
those
value like what you
moments
hear from
hit.
the original Fantasia. Like for example, there were parts like for example the baby flying whale where it hits the water. It doesn't feel like the music. It doesn't feel like the same kind of impact as how the baby whale is falling on the water, which is honestly kind of disappointing. Honestly, like it needed a little more of an impact of satisfaction to the music, maybe
Hmm.
more of a bass boost, or I'm not an expert on music, but maybe having more of an impactful way, honestly.
Yeah, I understand that.
Mhm.
It's like I remember when I first like the CG here. I actually it, at times it looked a bit off to me, but I do think it's like relatively good. But I don't know. I think I personally just preferred like in the first film where it was all like a consistent type style, just kind of doing something different with 2D, you know. But regardless, it's still like good CG. So I don't know. Do you
Yeah,
guys know
it's
what I
really
mean?
good.
It's not
Mhm.
like a huge
Yeah, no,
issue,
I
but
got you definitely.
yeah. But I
Uh,
Yeah,
just thought it was
this
mhm.
worth a quick mention there.
yeah, Disney wasn't really the biggest expert on CG animation at that time. So, but the way they did it, I think the CG was pretty good. Was pretty
For the
good for the
time,
most part.
definitely,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll be fair here again. The year after this was Dinosaur, their first CG, so we could have got it a little lower, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
still not a
yeah.
great segment.
I will say the beginning part was okay of Pines of Rome. The middle part was it's okay, just a little bit slow. Like it definitely is where the music gets a lot of more softer, but it just doesn't feel kind of memorable in a sense. The ending part is the most memorable part for me of the segment. That was one of the most impactful segment, one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. Honestly,
It's a
probably
nice
one of my.
ending, seeing them all
It's a
like
it's
fly to
to
that
to to
specific.
to the final layer of the water into space. That was
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that was which is pretty funny because you have water and then you go over another layer of water and then you have the clouds and then another layer of water. Like what the hell is this cloud sea?
Yeah.
Exactly. That
you know.
shit's wild. But yeah.
But I really
Then
enjoyed it.
yeah. Then Rhapsody in Blue, which I think is
My favorite of the
maybe my
movie.
my favorite segment. Because first of all, I love the fact that I think my favorite thing about Fantasia 2000 is even if I'm so on the styles, I love that they like have such variety in them because it's like
Yeah.
that helps the
Yeah.
point of Fantasia. It's about the importance of like different animations,
It's
of
still,
putting
I'd
so many different
say, as
animations.
like a solid
That's
enough
what's perfect.
tribute to animation, you know? It's still like
Yeah, that's what I'm just, that's what I was
Absolutely.
thinking. Like the
Absolutely,
fact that they
especially
have so many different
the
forms
current
and
animation styles of the early 2000s. It's a great tribute to it.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I love the sketch style in this segment specifically so much. Like it looks so good. And having that sort of jazz feel to it, it's great. It's definitely more of a, again, more of a traditional narrative one, which again, not really the Fantasia style. But I think it, for this segment, I think if you just isolate it alone as a short film, it's still like it works great. And I really love how it kind of, turns up. It's so just has a fun vibe to it. It's probably the
Definitely
most
is
consistently
brilliant and showing just the
segment.
amazing vibe of New York City. We see like the perspective of four different like people. Like one's a little girl being forced into different activities. One is this guy who just wants to be a musician. Um, what the other guy is just like kind of wants like a job of some kind. And what was the last guy again? It was the guy who
The
wanted
last
to
to,
uh
to basically be free of its very abusive
his
wife.
wife, yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
thinking that, yeah. But it's great. It's great. It's like seeing all these different perspectives, and it makes this. And as a result, it really does a good job of like helping you like view and like it shows a lots of variety in the city. I also like a lot of the jazz feel every now and again in terms of it.
Yeah,
It has such a
yeah,
great tone to it. I love it so much.
yeah. This is probably one of my absolute favorite segments of both Fantasia films. Honestly, it's really incredible. Rhapsody in Blue, the piece itself. It's one of my, it's honestly fantastic, especially the piano version of the song. It's absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. So jazzy and so bifold that really
Yeah,
fit into the
exactly.
setting
It's got such a good.
Of New York City. It's amazing, honestly.
Uh-huh.
Pretty,
Yeah,
pretty,
exactly.
pretty, and for being the and this one is actually the longest segment of Fantasia 2000, and for it to be the longest segment, it deserves it. It's really well made, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
has a really
Actually,
nice
could you bring
ending
up
too.
blank because that's another thing I'm just gonna bring up generally now while it's hot. That's one thing I kind of nitpick you of this. It made it really easy to rewatch for this episode. Like it's only a little over 70 minutes, and that's really breezy. But also, I think the fact that Fantasia 1 is like it's 2 hours, which again is not only like I think it justifies with all the segments, but it adds that sort of scale and concert feel to it, where 2000 again incredibly feels much more low key. So it's like, okay, well, only 74 minutes. It's like comparatively, it feels like it's not justifying the way the first
Yeah,
one
it's
did.
really
But that's my whole
short,
thing.
which is like surprising because the original Fantasia, I think it's like up there with one
I
of the
think it's
longest
still the
Disney
longest
movies.
Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So go
yeah.
into one of the
Yeah,
Yeah,
shortest, almost a bit jarring.
yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I wish it was a bit longer. I wish it was a bit longer, but what can you do?
yeah.
Mhm.
A huge complaint, just something I definitely know because I was like, hold on, that's interesting. But not enough about that. What after? Okay, then there was okay, Rhapsody in Blue, and it
I think
wasn't
it was the
the
Twin
fucking
Soldier one. I want to say
Yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah.
soldier.
the
That's
Toy
the one
Soldier one.
I think that yeah, this one's okay. I don't know, like I'm not huge on the style, but it's not like bad either. I wasn't too into this one beyond just I guess just a compliment for both movies. I think in classical music, a lot of the stuff they pick is inherently nice to listen to. So even if I don't fuck with the segment, I just still like what they pick for it in terms of tracking and stuff. So I appreciate that much. Even though this one, I don't know, the
I'm not
general like
into
vibe
this
and thing
one
for the
that
golf,
much,
I'm
if I'm
not
being
huge
honest.
on it.
It's like
Yeah,
I
I
don't think the
wasn't really
music
into
fits
it.
as well here, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest. Like in terms of like I don't
Nah.
know, it's not that epic or
Yeah,
anything.
again, I like the song, but it's like where it is, it's like
It's
eh.
the
yeah.
song is fine, but I feel like they could have chosen a much better classical piece to fit better with this story. Honestly,
Yeah, that's what
I
I
mean,
was thinking.
yeah, it's kind of weird that the Jack in the Box face looks a lot like Frodo, like from Hunchback.
Oh my god, it kind of does, yeah.
Oh wow. Oh shit! Yeah, no, I haven't even seen Hunchback, but I'm aware of that much at least. That's funny. But
Yeah, not much to say about
Also,
the
also,
segment.
it's well, the end. I want to talk about the ending of that segment because the original, according to the original story of the Toy Soldier one, he dies, and the ballerina goes after him, and they both die together with their with the rest of their bodies turning into a little heart. That's how the original story goes. But no, they do the Little Mermaid thing and letting the main characters live in this one.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, it's like it's Disney, where they gotta tone it back a little bit, but
Yeah.
pussy. But anyway, then I forget which one was after that. It was this, then that one.
The
Then
Jojo Flamingo. The next one was the Jojo
oh,
Flamingo.
okay. Okay, this is kind of weird because this segment isn't even like I honestly, this is one of my favorite segments, and I feel like it shouldn't be because it's so comparatively simple.
And
I
it's
just think it's
I
very
think it's
funny.
the shortest
Like
one too,
it's
like overly short
yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
yeah, no, but honestly, I fuck with this segment. Honestly, I think
It's charming. I
it's
love
not
the
like
colors.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, oh
Yeah.
my god, the way the actual flamingos pop with the good pink, and it's such a stupid segment. I don't even know if it fits Fantasia, but
It
again, if you
doesn't fit
isolate it, I think
Fantasia, but like
like,
it's still kind of like fun just seeing all
yeah, oh
the
my god, when he goes around with the fucking yo-yo and everything,
and
and the
then
way
if all the
that
other
times,
flamingos get pissed at him, that's funny.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
this one. Honestly, I think it's so
it's pretty funny. I think this whole segment was kind of a gap because even with the introduction, they tried to explain that this next segment is supposed to respond the biggest question of humanity. How does nature interact with man? But then one of the animators passed the synopsis of the segment about what will happen if you give a JoJo to a flamingo. It's like, who wrote this?
It's a very bizarre idea
yeah,
for like a Fantasia
yeah.
segment, if you think
Yeah,
about it
exactly.
that way.
I guess that's my whole thing where
Yeah.
in the context of Fantasia, I don't know if I like that being like sort of joke. It's like, okay, well this doesn't add to the scale. But I think again, if you isolate it from that, I like really like this segment. It pops, it's funny, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a very cute little short, and it's kind of funny. I prefer this to a lot of the bigger ones, but you know what? Who cares? It's my ranking, damn it. I fucking love the yo-yo segment. This one's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's it's really well animated and very colorful.
Yo,
It
yeah, just to be sure.
Yeah.
100%.
I guess the next one is technically Donald's arc since we already talked about the redone
Yeah, we
Sorcerer's
talked about
Apprentice
the
thing.
Sorcerer's Apprentice already. If you want to
yeah.
know what we think
mm,
about
be- uh,
that,
be-
skip
uh,
ahead
be-
to this video.
before we go to that one, what do you guys think about Penn and Teller's introduction to the Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Uh
Um,
even I forget what the gag was, but I know it was something. It was like the kind of I think it took me out of it a little bit.
I think the idea is that they try to compare about the magic of fiction with how magicians represent magic in their stage shows and stuff,
mhm.
Uh, I
which
remember
is
that honestly. If I'm kind of struggling to remember that part now, I probably didn't leave that much of an impression
I
on
don't
me.
really
But
remember it that
yeah,
much either.
yeah,
yeah.
it's all right. I don't know. All the openings kind of blend for me. But yeah,
Same.
the next one, fucking the Donald one. This one, I don't even know if it's that good, but I
Another
have a
one that
deep
doesn't
rooted.
fit Fantasia, but it's like kind of and it's all right. It's kind of nice.
Again,
I
it's
kind of
another
liked
kind
it.
of I think isolated from the
I
Fantasia
enjoyed it,
thing.
even though it's kind of a bizarre concept. Basically, taking pop and circumstance, a well-known song from graduations and ceremonies, and putting it into Noah's Ark with
It's
Donald Duck.
Yeah,
really yeah, it's really
yeah.
bizarre. Like the
See, I
yo-yo
really like
flamingo
this one
thing.
in terms of again, really, first of all, I just have to like, I have a bias for him because, again, like I said earlier, Donald Duck is my favorite of the general Mickey Mouse crew. He was the first literally me character when I was like a little wee lad. I fucking love this stupid odd duck. But point is, as an actual segment, it's like again, I think you have to isolate from the Fantasia thing because I don't know if the music justifies as much, but I do think it's very fun. I like it's so stupid the whole scale of it. Like, hey, come on, Donald, fucking turn around. You'd realize that doesn't happen. But I
Mhm.
like the song. I really like the visuals of the ship and everything. They do a great the fucking arc itself feels
Mhm.
very grand, very big in scale. And I don't know, it's nothing like hugely dramatic, but it has a sweet ending. Like, oh, they found each other. It's adorable. I
and
love that.
adorable.
Oh my
Even
God.
though it's kind of silly how they don't see each other in many parts of the arc, but
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. The shit that
Yeah,
makes the
it's kind of dumb,
come on,
but
dude.
it's like
Yeah.
it's nice. It's a
Like,
nice little short for what it is.
concepts like these always kind of piss me off, and like cartoon stuff. That's like, God damn it, man. This is so stupid. Like, come on.
It does look
Around.
beautiful. It does look beautiful. The animation.
Yeah, once
Oh,
again, very
100%.
vibrant. All the animals. It's a
Yeah.
good
I love
lighting
the way they
here.
like animated. Like, yeah, I love the way they animated just the general Disney cartoon characters around this time. Like, if you look at the fucking '90s Mickey shorts, they did. It looks fucking beautiful. I love it.
Yeah,
But yeah, real, real
yeah,
neat shit here.
yeah.
Hmm.
The CG of the arc was also pretty well done for its time.
Yeah. I thought that one blended a lot better than the whale segment did. So that
Yeah,
was pretty cool. Uh, Yeah, not much else to say on that one. It's kind of if you like general Mickey Mouse gang stuff, and if you're a Donald purist like me, then I would I'd say it's pretty fun. It's funny. This and the Yo-Yo one, they're probably like the two I hold in most high regard from except for Rhapsody in Blue. That's like obviously the top. But other than them, those are the two I maybe hold in higher regard, even though they don't really feel like Fantasia segments to me. Just like funny little things, but yeah. And then the final one, which what do you guys feel about? What do you guys feel about this one? The
the nature
Firebird one.
one,
Yeah,
I adore this one. This is
Yeah.
probably my second favorite in the movie. The
yeah.
whole thing, just like how they display the environment through like the way the nature spreads through the different like ongoing moving lines. Like I said, doing different shadings and like drawings of animation that looks really well. Everything just looks
Mhm.
beautiful with how they display this nature, and I like how there's just this one deer always like walking around experiencing this nature girl come to life as she like spreads throughout the land only for like just like erupting fire like like the process of nature itself killing her in some way but only to revive
Mhm.
back. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. It's not really like a like hero villain either. It's just it's just that the flow of nature itself. Like
Yeah,
there's always gonna be beautiful nature as it grows. But then sometimes there's gonna be disasters. Like obviously the Firebird is the personification of a volcano eruption, destroying
exactly.
everything in its nature.
And there's something like really
Mhm.
cool about that of how they display that nature, and you can't help but like be
Mhm.
immersed in it. I love it.
100%. It's so cool. So cool.
It's a
Again, I just like you guys are saying. I generally agree. The way it like presents like color and all that stuff. It's so good. It feels really the one in this that I feel one of those that most personifies what I like about the original
Yeah, I have
Fantasia,
to
even if
agree.
it's
This is like the type
yeah.
of, multi layers of like the animation and whatnot, the type of like, discussion that I could see having with a segment from the original Fantasia.
Yeah, the same way it
Absolutely.
uses like color and like music and whatnot. It just kind of makes me be like, okay, well, I like really kind of. I mean, looking down the list, there's only a couple segments in this where I was like, ho hum on like the fucking whale one, I forget the
The
one
toy
other
soldier.
CG one.
The
Yeah, the toy soldier.
soldier
Yeah, that
and
one
the
and
and the
the
whales ones
fucking
are probably like my
yeah.
least favorite out of the ones in this
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. Those are the only ones I think I was actively like, I don't fuck with that. Like, because I really like a lot of segments of these, but kind of, again, I feel like overall, I have that frustration in terms of this is the, this is not really what I appreciate about fucking Fantasia. But you know what? It's still a very solid piece
It's
overall. And
it's not quite as like grand as the first film, even though it attempts
no,
to be that
definitely
way.
not. And that's where a lot of my nitpicks come from. And
Yeah,
Yeah, just the
yeah.
fact that
but
it's
It
a
was
sequel to the first, and it's almost like sad that it has to carry that burden in some way, you know?
yeah, I don't. I think this
mhm.
this whole thing of I'm pretty sure what Disney wanted is they're like, okay, well, we're gonna bring back Walt's idea for fucking Fantasia shit with this,
For the turn of the
and it
millennium,
did.
basically.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it back for a new time, and it didn't really pan out because, from what I gather, Fantasia 2000 did not do very well box office wise, and considering it was the first post Renaissance, it kind of was one of the big steppers in Disney kind of following that direction, and then well we know what happened. Treasure Planet
Yeah,
switched to
Yeah.
3G, that whole thing.
yeah.
But
It
yeah, I don't
it
really even blame the movie for that because Fantasia, like we were talking about, it's very much a not general audience thing. Like the only thing you can really grab audience onto is oh look, it's Mickey Mouse. He's in a wizard outfit. Ooh, but that's not what Fantasia is. It's just what they market Fantasia as.
Yeah.
And but getting into it like 2000, that might be even why they have the Sorcerer's Apprentice on this, so that they can sort of market it similarly. But really, it's like the market for what Fantasia is much more suited to what general like fucking honestly what like art house more indie cinema is like, and you can't have fucking Disney doing that because that's not gonna make gangbusters like they want. So, and then just generally the vibe of Disney changed so much that I don't think you could make a movie like the original Fantasia.
Mhm.
So it's like I don't like a lot of decisions in this movie, but I understand them, and I'm not shocked that this did not do that well, as to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Same.
Even if I have nitpicks with this sequel, I actually still enjoy Fantasia 2000 for what it is. Like I still enjoy it. Not as highly regarded as the original Fantasia, but I still enjoy it. And it's kind of disappointing for me that I still to this day I'm against any type of cash grab sequel or anything, but to this day I still wish Disney made at least a third Fantasia. Honestly.
I think you could make it work. It's just that I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Disney in the modern day cares enough to make something like that again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like that's not really
cannot
what
see
the
them
bottom
making a
line is. It
third
kind of stuff.
Fantasia movie,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I was hoping that for the 100th anniversary they quarterly could have made maybe not as theater wise, but maybe like a smaller scale Fantasia project for Disney Plus or something. But
That would
I'm
have been
disappointed.
really cool, but
Yeah,
yeah. Unfortunately, that
I
did
think
not
honestly,
happen.
uh, there is I think a vision for something that could work, but I don't think they'd fucking do it. So
Yeah,
oh well.
I
But
don't
anyway,
think I don't believe that modern Disney would do something like that at this point.
100% no. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Eh,
I guess we'll just get into
yeah,
ratings now.
ironic how the nostalgia pander every of their IPs, but not Fantasia, which is
Well, yeah. Is again the only thing they can fucking nostalgia bait is oh yo remember fucking Mickey with the hat, and it's like well, you can the only thing that really can exist as is I guess that's just like a mascot thing for Disney that they can't pan off the same way they're doing other shit like I think at one point I forget where I even heard this at one point they were like they wanted to do like a live action thing for the fucking Night of Bald Mountain segment from Fantasia, but that doesn't make sense because it's about animation timing to the music. You literally can't do a live action Fantasia. That's fucking retarded. It'd be weird
yeah.
if they did the Sorcerer's Apprentice in live action. Wink, wink. But anyway, um,
Uh,
anyway, I'll go just get into
No,
ratings now.
I
I think
remember
Fantasia.
I remember Citizen howling his review for Doctor Strange 2, like the Multiverse of Madness. I love how he said that when Doctor Strange was finding evil Doctor Strange, he's like the best live action adaptation of Fantasia. That was kind of funny.
Oh,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's funny. I guess they do end on that fucking music battle thing. But yeah, I guess we'll just, again get into ratings now overall. I think Fantasia 2000 is a very solid 6 because
Same
there's a lot
here.
of segments I really like, a lot of things I really appreciate, but all that drags it down, and I think a lot of the segments I do like work better outside of the movie as opposed to kind of in it. That's my take anyway. But
Yeah, I understand.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh, what would you give it PSI, and then we can
Mhm.
just move on to the
It's
next one.
complicated. It's complicated. I'm always between a 7 or an 8 because 7 because I do have my nitpicks about how this can be considered a Fantasia film, but I also an 8 because I still enjoy most of the segments and what it was going for. Even if sometimes it misses at points, but I still enjoy it and it doesn't ruin the entire experience for me. Even it's experience for me. It's kind of like a short burst experience that it can be easy to rewatch from time to time instead of Fantasia because with Fantasia the original you had to take like 2.5 hours to dedicate to watch the entirety. While with this one, it's almost 70 minutes and you can watch it like normal if you want a little bit of Fantasia goodness if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
understand
get you.
that. It's like
I considered giving it higher, honestly, just based on like
same
segment ratio.
actually,
But
kind of.
I think I'm a good where I am now with it.
Mhm.
But yeah, then okay, I'm gonna be honest. This next movie you decided PSI to touch on to this. The fucking
Yeah.
the Sorcerer's Apprentice 2010. I'm still honestly confused why this one is even a movie. Not even in the sense of oh, how could they make something so terrible? It's just kind of like, okay, well, this feels like a fucking Disney Channel movie with a budget, and
It
also
has
it just so
that
happens
vibe
to have the same name as
definitely.
a
I don't
Fantasia
even
segment.
like.
Like,
I don't even think I remember like hearing much about this movie like before you
I've heard of
recommended
it.
it.
Like, only reason
Yeah,
I know about it is another plug, friend of the podcast, Silver. Hi, Silver, if you're listening to this. But his fucking review for it, I'll plug that because apparently it took him like years to watch this fucking movie because he like had to spread it across a bunch of like different starting it and then couldn't finish it like 2 or 3 times. It's wild. But I didn't even know what the movie was about, how much it relates to the fucking Fantasia segment, which the only thing it does is there's like a brief part where they try to do the fucking brooms, and it
yeah,
doesn't even work
That
either.
is the
So it's like,
only.
well,
There's like two things that relate to Fantasia, and that is the post-credit scene where they have the hat
yeah. Jensen's
from the
hat.
movie. Yeah, and they also like said the scene with the brooms where they play the music and everything, and then
Yeah,
that is it. That's all. The
yeah,
rest of it
yeah.
is his
That's
own
it.
thing.
Yeah, it's basically its own thing, which is super bizarre because it's kind of debatable if this even counts as a Disney live action remake. Because I mean, this was just released the same year as the Alice in Wonderland Tim Burton film,
oh,
which people do consider that one as a Disney live action remake. But I see people with the argument that this doesn't really count because it's basically its own thing. When Alice in Wonderland, the Tim Burton one, it's actually also doing its own thing because it's basically like a semi sequel to the book story and Disney cartoon.
my whole thing is like, if it's practically a different movie, like a different story by anything but name, you can. I feel like you could hardly call it a remake, as it just
Yeah,
making something
It
loosely based
well,
off it.
it
Which
do,
honestly,
they do remake
I
the
don't even.
segment in one scene technically, but yeah, I can
Yeah,
kind of get.
technically, but it's very loose, and
yeah. I wouldn't
I still don't
even
even
if we
know.
were to consider this a Disney remake, I'd say it's one of the better ones.
I
Yeah,
But
get, yeah, honestly,
honestly,
it's
probably my favorite one quality wise,
if
honestly,
you're gonna
because
go
the
by
bar
that,
is
it's one of the only
insanely
ones I
low. But
actually
yeah.
like. It's one of the only ones I actually enjoy. If we're going by
I
that
did have
metric,
like there was some stuff that I thought was like kind of funny. There's like a weird charm to it, but it's also
yeah,
like not a very good movie at all.
see, I
yeah,
enjoyed this movie. I just think it's really stupid, even from the fucking get go. Cause we have this fucking
We're actually
little
talking about a movie
bitch
with a
here.
plot this episode, an entire
Yeah,
plot.
wow. This is like a. It's funny. This is like the only way we can talk about like a normal fucking movie. We got this little fucking. We got this bitch, Dave, who I was wondering who the fuck he sounded like the entire time until I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's Hiccup.
I
yeah.
That's how to
It's
noticed
Jay
spell
that
his last
Baruchel.
name.
immediately.
Yeah, yeah. It's Jay
Oh,
Baruchel.
yeah,
Hiccup, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
my
had
bad.
the
yeah, yeah. The
Hiccup.
point is,
I mentioned this in the 2024 video, but I had that same thing with while watching Blackberry. It was just, like the voice is just iconic, so you just
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
He's in Blackberry too. So like, okay, yeah. Another plug for Blackberry, one of the best movies of last year. But point is, so there's this bitch, right? He was on like a fucking school trip or whatever, and then he stumbles on this little place, and he's like, "Oh, look at all this magic shit." Nicolas Cage, whoa.
Whoa, Nicolas
Alfred
Cage
Molina,
is
wow.
a wizard,
Yeah,
a
Yeah,
sorcerer.
yeah, yeah. And then yeah, there's all this like wizard sorcery shit. And then it all goes away and then he's fucking embarrassed in front of his class, which is I think maybe the thing in this movie that like gets me the most because the whole thing is he's publicly embarrassed in front of his class. It looks like he fucking pissed himself. He looks insane. And somehow he's like holding on to this embarrassment of something he did in fucking fourth grade after like a decade. It makes no sense to me. Like
yeah.
the
They
whole
say
plot.
He's only
in the
he's only
movie.
9. He was only 9. Like, come
Exactly.
Exactly.
on.
He's like fucking 9 and they're still holding
It's
on
so
to him for this.
stupid.
It's
They
wild.
say in the movie that like after there are like people in the tri-state area that still make fun of a 9-year-old pissing his
Yeah.
pants 10 years after that happened. So like and they say it's called pulling a David, what's his last name? Dave
Yeah,
Stutler. It's like
They
what?
yeah,
stutter.
Dave
After
Stutler.
10
Pulling
Get,
years?
that part
get
was so
it,
stupid to me. Like,
get it
ain't
because he
no
stutters
way.
every line.
Oh, I get it. That's funny. But yeah, I just like that whole thing made no fucking sense to me, and it's weird because I just it's even weirder when the whole thing is this guy he's in college he's not doing great, but then he finds this like this girl Becky from when he was a kid he was trying to impress. And this whole thing baffled me so sincerely because I was like, dude, are you really that desperate to like get in touch with the person you had a crush on in fucking fourth grade? Like fucking hell, man. You're such a bitch,
they
honestly.
really value fourth grade.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like it's implied they haven't spoken since, so it's like,
So
dude,
it doesn't make any. It's
honestly,
fourth grade. Like
my main
he's in
hit
like
against this movie,
college
yeah,
now,
the
or
main hit
is
against this movie is
like
fucking
what
Dave.
what did Dave did off screen during that time? Like he was spouting nonsense about the wizards and everything to have it that status, because if he didn't do anything, it's still pretty weird.
yeah.
Exactly. But my whole thing is fucking my main criticism of this movie. It doesn't bother me, but it's certainly something I know. Our main guy, fucking Dave, he has the worst like riz of all time. I'm actually embarrassed for him. Like I do not buy any of the fucking romantic chemistry in this movie because he's such a fucking loser. And like I don't even think that like the movie tries to endear you to him, and he kind of like you kind of get it, but it's like when they get to see there, it's like, oh, they're having an emotional bond, they're going on dates, and it's like I don't buy it. He's a fucking pussy,
I
and this
think
movie
a
doesn't do
weird
anything.
issue with this movie for me is the fact I feel like at the same time I think Jay Baruchel, I think he does a good job playing this nerdy like piece of shit. But at the same time, I feel like it's like almost kind of, this whole thing is about this epic wizard duel because it's like based off a tale. Some lady was like trapped in this like toy thing for years, and now she's gonna and Nicolas Cage was in love with the girl who was trapped inside the thing, and that girl was like possessed by the evil spirit lady.
Yeah,
I'm forgetting their
Morgana.
names. I just watched this movie. I'm forgetting
Mor-
the names.
the evil witch is called
Yeah.
Morgana.
Morgana. Ah, yes, Morgana. Yeah, and then now he's gotta like now they gotta stop Alfred Molina, who I'd say also does a good job here to kind of
I got
like
honestly,
Yeah,
I knew
basically.
nothing about this movie, so going into it's like, oh, him and Nicolas Cage and Rowley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid for 2 seconds. I was like, whoa, this is a
he has
fucking
like one line in
starstruck.
the
Yeah.
movie. I
Don't
was like,
Yeah.
don't forget Alfred Molina. He actually does a very good job as the villain in this. Alfred Molina.
I'll admit some of the
Yeah, honestly,
performances here are like
the fucking
pretty.
stacked ass and his villain character is one of my favorite. I think my favorite part of the movie. I love. It's such a stupid joke, but one of the only like unironic laughs I got from this movie is this part where he's like, he pulls out like fucking Dave's like I think like book report, and he's like, wow,
Yeah.
He's
you
been
got a
reading
B
that for
minus
10
for the.
years straight.
He fucking breaks it all down and shit, and he just goes, I was 9.
He starts getting pissed
That's
at
so
him because he had to
stupid.
read that
I
for
love
10
it.
years straight. I find that funny.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
the only reading material he had for all those 10 years inside that which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyways, back to what I was saying about the main character. But like, yeah, he's on all this wizard stuff, like I said. And then you just have him being this absolute, dumb, like bumbling nerd. And as a result, just everything he does in his place in the story just does not fit with this sorcerer tone. Which I think I know it's kind of intentional, like they're trying to, oh, this nerdy kid is becoming a sorcerer, which I feel like I've seen like a million times. Oh,
The
some
problem is I never
loser
bought that
gets
transition though.
like
Like,
yeah, definitely I didn't buy that either. Yeah, just his entire,
mhm.
him becoming a wizard thing. I never really bought that at all.
I wonder if the movie
Yeah.
will be different if they focus on Dave when he was 9 years old throughout the entire movie.
I
Like,
thought
yeah,
that's how it would be, if I'm being honest, going in, because I knew barely
Honestly,
anything
like
about this movie going
that
in.
seemed like what the direction they were going. I'm like, oh, he's embarrassed about that, and I feel like that made more sense because I really thought the idea was gonna be, and it was like, I feel like it was gonna, like the typical fantasy type thing, like Harry Potter, fucking.
Yeah, I thought
Owl
it would
House
be
is one of the
something
most
like
big
that.
examples in my mind,
yeah.
and that sucks. But point is, that type of big, like, oh, look at these kids, they're going on an escapist adventure fantasy. They're gonna be the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Ooh, they don't do that, and instead this fucking college guy doing it, which I think negates a lot of like the escapist feel they thought they were gonna do with that. But it's like, eh. It could be worse. I just thought that was a weird play to make. It's just like, okay, I thought that
I
was
feel
gonna
like it
go
would have made more sense if he
way more
wasn't
different
this
than that.
grown man in college holding on to something he did in the 4th grade for some reason.
Exactly. That's what was so
Yeah.
weird about it. Like, dude,
Yeah.
come on. Just cope. you.
Also, he's a physicist. Get it? Get it? The
Yeah.
metaphor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I remember that.
There's
But
also
yeah, I
pop
don't know.
songs, and boy, are they just so out of place as well. Just only adds to this film's weird
Yeah,
ass
it kind
I,
of.
w- I
management of
will
Yeah,
tone.
say
it kind of remind me how
it is a
it kind of reminded me of that Disney film G-Force where they play out all
Oh
many hit songs of
yeah,
Black Eyed Peas.
yeah. That movie
This
was
in weird.
obsessed with the Black Eyed Peas soundtrack right
you know,
there.
I will say
This movie was
it's
obsessed with the song of Secrets. I don't remember the name of the song, but they repeatedly play it all throughout the movie, like 3 times.
Yeah, but I do think it's like
I will say it is a wild ass choice to make a movie filled with pop songs based on a franchise built on classical music. Like I will say that's a very
it's
ballsy play to
Yeah.
make.
It
But
would,
okay, you do
kind
you,
of
buddy.
pisses me off if I think
I
about
think,
that
I
more.
think, I think I missed
It irks me that
opportunity.
way.
I think I missed opportunity on that scene when Dave is with Becky, with showing her that his physicist experiment with the Tesla electric shocks. Instead of playing that stupid pop song, it would have been cool if he played the Sorcerer's Apprentice theme, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice theme from Fantasia with that experiment. I thought it would be kind of cute, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It would fit, I think. It would tie it all
Yeah, I
together.
feel like if they
think.
used more classical music, I feel like it would have definitely brought parts of this movie to life better, and it would have been more like a little tribute to the original in that type of way, if they just at least included some of that
Yeah.
type of
I think they
music.
wanted to do that with the brooms bit, but if you at that point, it just felt kind of tacky to me. Like, okay,
Yeah,
I
also,
I
it's
do have
just
I
a
do have a
worse
lot.
version of it in every way
Yeah,
because
I do have a lot to say about that particular scene. If you guys are okay with me
oh
explaining.
yeah, go on,
sure.
go on.
Oh yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
yeah. The segment that pays tribute to the Sorcerer's Apprentice, just like any Disney live action remake, it does get it kind of wrong. Like I get the intent and everything, but it's pretty weird. Like he turns sentient the mobs and brooms, which is all okay, but then he also turns alive the sponges, and for some reason the electric sockets also turn alive for some reason. Like that was pretty weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets like insane, and I just feel like, man, the Sorcerer's Apprentice is cool because of animation. Okay, it's like the entire reason that scene worked. So doing it in live action just makes it all look so much more
Not only that,
lamer. This is an issue with all the Disney live action remakes, and
no,
it's like, yeah, it's just weird here with all.
yeah, for example, Davy's using the red jacket. Get it? It's like Mickey's outfit. It's red. Get it?
If you, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, I didn't even notice
What?
that now that I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the part where he's with the acid about to destroy the mob, like how Mickey destroyed the broom, is also done pretty wrong. Like you see the silhouette throwing the acid, he's not even failing and everything, but he's not even doing it right. Like in the original animation, Mickey was pretty violent in destroying the broom and everything. Here
Yeah, it was
just
a cool
but-
detail
but-
there.
like,
Looks like he
Damn.
puts no effort into
Damn.
trying to
That's
destroy
big.
that broom. It just
But,
looks so
yeah.
much more awkward and weird
Yeah,
compared to how.
definitely.
yeah. Also, the intent is kind of weird because in the original segment, Mickey was pretty much lazy. He was using magic to be lazy with his chores. But Dave also in this context, Dave is supposed to be continuing with his magic training. But apparently, he's taking more priority in doing more chores to be lazy with his magic training.
Yeah,
That's pretty ironic.
Yeah. Well, that just happened, but yeah, I didn't even think about it like that, but that is definitely very weird. It kind of, honestly, I feel like for what's supposed to be a big magic thing, I felt like not much huge shit happened because there's like what they'll do is they'll have like some magic bit with fucking Nick Cage or whatever, but then in between those bits we'll have more of fucking Dave or whatever being like you trying to fucking date Becky, and those parts are like again, I would like them. I would think they'd be better if you could feel that chemistry more. They have a more natural setup. Because honestly, if I were in fucking Becky's shoes, I'd be like, oh, why the fuck did this guy I knew for 1 grade want to fucking like is this obsessed like that? That is just weird.
it's
to me,
weird.
I don't
It's
know.
like it's a huge part of like the
Wild.
conflict. Like bro even puts like the entire world at risk just to protect her by the end, and I just do not understand that at all.
Yeah,
don't get.
yeah. I think that's the part of the film that it kind of drags it down a bit. It's the whole subplot with Becky, with the love interest. It's just like, for a movie that's supposed to be about sorcerers, about trying to be the next prodigy, trying to save the world with this cool lore about magic and wizards and all. But most of the but half of the runtime we focus on this side plot of about with their fourth grader love interest, which kind of drags it down, honestly, with how supposed to be epic the story's supposed to be.
Exactly, yeah. It just kind of is the biggest issue with the movie, just like how they treat the main, like the main character and his love interest. It's like the biggest issue, and how that like connects with the whole fucking wizard stuff. It just comes off as very weird. Also, goes out saying, but man, some of the CG has not aged the best. That goes without saying, you know.
Some of the big
Uh,
effects, I'm like,
well, some of the CG effects I can kind of get, but I've seen one time I saw the behind the scenes, and apparently there were some practical effects, especially with the use of fire in this one.
Yeah, some of it looked
oh, I didn't
alright.
even
I'll
know
give it
that.
that.
That is
But
cool, actually. You
yeah,
don't
Okay,
think of like fucking
which I kind of
2010
appreciate,
stuff.
because let's be
doing
honest, I don't think
practical
Disney
effects.
will ever use practical effects in their movies when they
Yeah.
depend so much on CG.
especially for
They
like
do
something
CG for
like
like
this.
actual rooms now, so like
Yeah,
we're kind of fucked. But
it's so annoying.
yeah,
But yeah,
it's
I'll
wild.
admit not all the effects are bad. But yeah, obviously some of like the big animals and bull stuff looked a bit off. Not really a huge issue, just
It's
something
better
worth
than the
noting.
I don't know that.
CGI goldfish in
I don't
Pinocchio
know.
2020.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's
the
like
metal,
I've seen worse CG. Just thought it was like
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
So the metal eagle does look do look kind of cool. The
looked
metal
alright.
eagle.
Yeah.
hmm
I will admit some
What?
of the editing and just shooting of some of the action scenes also looked pretty damn weird. Like at parts, like it just didn't flow together in a well done, cohesive way. It's hard to fully describe it, but it just was weird.
Some of it felt kind of unnatural. I'll give you
Yeah,
that. I was
yeah.
like, oh,
Especially like mainly the sorcerer fights between Nicolas Cage and Alfred Molina. And I feel like the main thing that is carried for this movie that makes me enjoy it is I weirdly enjoy some of the performances. I think like,
Yeah.
you know, stuff with Nicolas Cage, Alfred Molina, I think, you know, they're having a fun time. And
Yep.
as a result, I'm having a fun time. You know, it really goes to show what good performances and just fun ones in general could elevate an experience well, you know?
Yeah.
So
I will
that's the
say
highlight.
Nicolas Cage in this is pretty good in this. It's not his best role compared to other films, especially I think his performance in National Treasures is better than this one, but
Yeah.
I still have I still have a fun time with this one. It has a bit of charm to it, honestly.
yeah, yeah, certainly. It's kind of funny. I wasn't even sure what I was getting into with this because it's such a vague
Same.
descriptor for it. But and I really don't think this one didn't even. I don't even think this one has much of a cult following compared to other stuff. Like this is 2010 where I know Disney was doing a bunch of shit. It really, honestly, I feel like this movie would have been talked about more if they bumped it down to fucking Disney Channel original movie status. Because in some levels, that's what it feels like with the fucking cliched romance thing, kind of dinky ass
They
fucking
try to have
CG or
some sort
whatever.
of
But
message about love, I guess, but it just
Yeah,
doesn't
but
really.
I don't think a Disney Channel movie will have Nicolas Cage and Alfred Molina. You think
yeah,
about
that's true.
Obviously,
I think
yeah.
that's true very much. I feel honestly that feels like where they blew a lot of the budget on. Fucking, I do like Nick Cage a lot. I think he's a great performance in this. You know, this type of
my favorite scene of Balthazar is when he is with the old lady, with the Chinese old lady, and he says half of in weird Cantonese, and he's like, "Oh, you speak Mandarin?" He's like, "Oh," and then he beats the shit out of the old woman because he knows that's an imposter.
That's
That was pretty
funny,
funny.
yeah. Also, I want to talk about characters. The only other guy I thought was kind of interesting was fucking. They got like Dave's implied like room, like the fat guy, Dave's like
his
roommate.
roommate. I
I think it
like
was.
his reaction to how he's like, "You're finally being social," when he sees him like trying
He's
to.
such a stock character archetype and like a romance thing to have the fucking guy who like encourages him or like
Why
keeps
couldn't
him in
he
those bad
be the
habits.
second main charttor? You know, why
Yeah,
couldn't he
he
be?
almost it
I think
almost
they
feels
should have
kind of.
done more of him
I
because I
almost
thought he
feel
was
that
very
his character
funny.
was kind of point. I almost feel that that character was the roommate character feels kind of pointless because he doesn't really contribute to almost anything besides
Yeah.
giving the materials for the final fight. But even still,
It's weird because they kind of set him up as being bigger than he is. Because he's like in the opening, like, "Oh, look, I'm like your second guy. I'm like Dave's right hand man." But it's like, not really. They
Yeah,
do a
no.
bit of a joke call back with him later, and then that, but it's like, he doesn't really do much. I was kind of like, oh, that's odd. But
Yeah.
He
it's
should have been
fun.
like, I don't know, like they should have, instead of like him having a love interest, he could have just had a good friend of his accompanying him or something, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what I thought they were gonna do, but it's like, oh, well, it's not really. Oh well,
What are you
it's
guys thoughts
fucking.
on? What are you guys thoughts on Alfred Molina's henchman? Like for example, that one with Sorcerer who's pretending to be a Vegas style magician.
Oh yeah, him.
I thought it was kind of fun.
I
Like,
thought it was
it's
funny. I
super.
think I mainly just found him funny because of Alfred Molina's presence with him, just him being like
Mm.
with him just trying to have him as a henchman. I thought that image was kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
good back and forth there, certainly. So
Yeah, but as
yeah.
a whole, it's just like the story just and like everything about it, just like a lot of the story just does not work and line up well in that way. And the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
like
That one Chinese sorcerer guy villain was also kind of neat to some extent. Like the design is pretty cool,
could have
honestly.
been cool, but he's in like one scene,
And
and
he
then
died. And he dies with his dragon.
yeah.
rip.
Overall,
Uh,
yeah,
there's
it's just
there was also this one girl that that Alfred Molina just uses for one scene just to capture Becky, and he just disposes of her. Like what the hell, dude?
yeah, I forgot about that. Also, I know she's on screen for like a minute, but like the kid acting there was just so. I mean, then again, she was like in some sort of isolated area for 10 years. So I guess it makes sense why she's talking weird, but I don't know. Put me off a bit, and then it was weird. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those are the main things I could really think of saying. The biggest issue is just the stuff with the main characters, and overall, I just Nicolas Cage is good in this movie. I do kind of enjoy him here. The performances aren't anything like mind blowing, but like they're kind of funny, you know. I kind of like them, but it just doesn't like it's just not used in a good or like properly paced story where it feels like I don't know. I just didn't really feel anything like for the characters or anything.
Also the way
Yeah,
that
I can see that.
also the way that Nick Cage explains how magic works in that movie is I can get what they were going for, but it's also kind of botched. Like he tries to explain that magic is like it's like a mixture of science, like which I can kind of get because when you're learning magic, it's like how you learn science. Like there's these different layers of magic and how you do your or how you have to understand how to manipulate certain layers to be able to invoke a certain spell. I can get that, but to mix that theorems of science to make magic work, like at that point, it's like that's not really magic. That's more like psychic powers if you think about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that metaphor they thought was smarter than it actually was, but oh well. I don't have too many more notes. Do you guys get any like little additional bits?
Not
Because I think
really.
I've been
Not many like I think
no,
that are worth note. I'm pretty sure I said
no,
most of what I wanted to say.
Kind of
yeah.
interesting how in the post credit scenes they say they imply that Alfred Molina's character is still alive and they're teasing a sequel, which it's been 14
Well,
years.
We're
So
still
I don't
wondering what's
know.
going
I
I
don't,
on
doubt
there.
this is
That's
going
not
back
gonna.
to this one. I don't think the thing is this wasn't popular enough to be good, but wasn't cult classic enough to be brought back in that sense. So
I
it's
Yeah.
kind
mean,
of in like a limbo. I doubt it would
I
be
think I
broken
did
out.
some
Like,
research because I was curious to see why this was made, and I think it had something to do. I think Nicolas Cage wanted to play this type of wizard
yeah,
character, and then
yeah.
they
He wanted to play a wizard for a movie, and then so one of his agents suggested. So he said, "Why don't you do the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Disney?" It's like deal. It's
yeah, since I guess they wanted to
this
like
was shortly after, and he did the National Treasures with Disney too. So I assume he had some sort of
I
good
kind of enjoy
relationship
those
on those.
movies more.
I
So
haven't seen them, but I hear they're quite fun.
yeah,
So
maybe we should talk about them
uh,
on the podcast someday. Who knows? I wouldn't mind rewatching them
yeah,
because it's
it
been a long
can't
time.
be bad.
yeah,
But
it's very
Yeah,
interesting how Jerry Bruckheimer was the one where the studio Jerry Bruckheimer was the one involved in making this movie because the most that Jerry Bruckheimer has done with adapting Disney things was Disney parks with Pirates of the Caribbean, not really Disney animation related stuff. So I can get the argument, but
yeah, sure.
this is not really a remake. This is just based on a vignette, basically. Even the crate says suggested by the short film The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild in that sense. But you know what? It was fun for what it was, even if I think it's ultimately unremarkable. I'm going a solid 4 on the Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's my
Same
rating.
here, actually. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 5, mostly maybe because it's a kind of a guilty pleasure for me because I love Fantasia, and even watching this movie, I mean, it's a weird thing that I kind of found charming in some sense, like of it just by its existence and stuff, like how it's trying to be its own thing, but it also has that job of trying to adapt the Sorcerer's Apprentice to some extent. It's kind of funny. It's a funny movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% get on that. I get it. If anything, I feel sort of similar because like, okay, that's something. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for tuning in for another episode of Campy Cast. It's weird because I thought that this would hopefully be like shorter than the last two, and it definitely is, obviously, but still clocking in at 2 hours, but
oh shit, really? Oh,
yeah.
that's funny.
But
It's kind of,
anyways,
I underestimated how big the Fantasia one. Cause, there's anthology movies. We don't
yeah,
know about,
there's
but
like a
oh,
lot to
no.
break down with them. I think
This
I
is basically
underestimated that.
we basically reviewed everything related with Fantasia that Disney has ever produced so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fun topic of discussion. Thank you for picking these and coming on a PSI. It's a pleasure to have any new guest on.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
it was an honor to being here. Thank you for inviting me. I had a great time, honestly. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
thank
it
you. No
was
problem.
fun, no
Absolutely no
problem.
problem.
Anyways, once
Yeah.
again, thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye.
And thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of Campy Cast. And normally we don't do next episode teases, but we know exactly what next one's gonna be. And let's just say it's gonna be a pretty wild one, pretty wacky,
Yeah.
pretty eccentric, pretty weird.
Ooh.
Yeah, stay
Ooh,
tuned
one
for
that could
that
not
one.
be.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yeah.